to wanting to do politics.
Politics the only game left for grown-ups, and there's that competition.
Why does nobody trust Congress today?
The left tells a lie, big media reports the lie, big tech amplifies the lie, and then when you tell the truth, they call you a racist. Every one of our liberties under the First Amendment was assaulted by the government, the Biden-Harris administration. Every single one.
Who can Trump fire? Who can he not fire?
Come in, fire everyone you're allowed to fire. And then, frankly, fire a few people you're not allowed to fire. To send a message like there is a new sheriff back in town.
Who is the leader or the leaders of the swamp? You've been in it.
That's one of the few times I really actually got mad at the witness. So
I don't look at this as a liberty thing, Congressman Jordan. Well, that's obvious.
He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over.
And that's how the founders envisioned.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Put the sticker on his doorbell cam so they couldn't see. 58 seconds later, he is dead.
Is this not criminal?
It's troubling.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to hate. And how they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
We have an interesting guest in the house today. We have a United States representative, none other than Jim Jordan, who happens to be a two-time NCAA national champion wrestler, former college coach for wrestling. And the more I'm going into this, competitive in that area, record 156-1, and you won state championship all 4 years in high school with a record of 156-1, which is pretty impressive. And then, you know, decides to go into politics, becomes 9-0 as a House of Representatives. We got to talk about that because I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on term limits because I want to see what you'll say about that. And then gets married to a competitor's sister, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
But I want to know that story. The brothers made. Was it your brother introducing you, or how that took place with teammate? And you guys got married. You guys got 4 kids, and some of the most fiery interviews, fiery things that we see is you fighting somebody else, and you're always up there doing your thing. So it's great to have you on the podcast.
Good to be with you. Thanks for all the good work you do. We, my boys are big fans, and I've watched some of your clips here lately. But yeah, it's great to be with someone who's getting truth and facts and information out to the American people, and all the good work you've done. So and the service to our country. So
I appreciate
that.
Thank you. Likewise, because you know, first of all, how do you go from 2-time state champion and you know 4-time, you know, in your high school undefeated? How do you go from that to wanting to do politics?
Well, I was at a point. I was assistant coach at Ohio State, and so I was at a point where I did that for 8 years, and you know, at some point, it's kind of time to go try to be a head coach in the Big Ten or do something else. And I was looking for something new to compete at. And we were just talking about how you love competition, and same here. And frankly, when you know how it is, you get married, you have kids, you suddenly start looking at the world different. You get tired of government taking your money and telling you what to do and insulting your values. And so I decided to run. The state rep, the local in our General Assembly in Ohio, the state rep had announced he was going to retire. And I'd never been in politics, never run for anything. I was a 29-year-old, you know, Joe Bag of Donuts, never been in politics. And I think, I'm going to run for state rep. And I still remember going and talking to the heads of the party, because where I'm from, it's all about winning the Republican primary. So I still remember going and talking to the folks and saying, you know, I'm thinking about running for state rep. And they basically said, well, you're a nice young guy, because I was young back then. They said, you're a nice young guy, but this 2-term county commissioner is running, and, you know, he's the favorite, and yada, yada. And I politely said, you know, they basically said, like, you know, you can't win. And I politely said, we'll see, right? That's why they kicked the ball off on Friday night. You got to play the game if he's going to win. And we had a bunch of good people help us out, knocking on doors. I mean, we were knocking doors every weekend, and we wound up winning 70-30, which, you know, in politics is a complete smack. It was just like so I've been in politics ever since. 30 years, 1994.
30 years in it. Yeah. Still love it as much as you did day one?
I do like, I like it when, the part I like the best is when I think there's a guy on the witness stand who I get the opportunity to cross-examine in one of these hearings, who if I think that guy hasn't been square with the people, particularly the people I represent in the 4th District of Ohio, but frankly the American people. And it's my job to to highlight that and demonstrate that and try to improve how the bureaucracy is going to operate for how the government's going to operate for the American people. So I like the competition part.
I mean, I see some of this stuff like weaponization of the federal government. You've gone against the FBI, CDC, DOJ, all these guys, Hunter Biden, the handling of the classified documents, Fauci, ESG, all of these things you've gone up against. It seems like that's what drives you when you see some of the correcting the injustice that's taking place. That's when you get fired up and you want to compete and get in there. And again, it's entertaining to watch because some of this stuff with politics, you need fighters. I was thinking you were going to be the Speaker of the House. And, Kevin and I have spoken multiple times.
Yeah,
we had him on.
I like Kevin.
I enjoy talking to Kevin, and I know you guys are friends.
Yeah.
But I thought for a moment, I'm like, you know what? Is he? And I think there was a moment for about a week or two where you were the one in the talks that could be the Speaker of the House, and then it went a different direction, and then Johnson, and then obviously it never happened. But how close was it to you being a Speaker?
Well, I mean, I got the nomination for after, with Kevin. We had the 8 guys that got rid of Kevin, which was a mistake, and then we had the ballots, and I ultimately get nominated. But there was a handful of guys that just weren't going to vote for me. And after 3 rounds, remember Kevin went 15.
I remember that.
And
crazy.
I remember I nominated in the 2nd round.
Yo, what's up, brother? What's Joy-Cons? How are you, brother?
After 3 rounds, I just saw that
congrats
it
on your
wasn't going
10
to happen.
pounds
So I went to the
off, my
conference and
dude,
basically said, okay, we could have a
take care of
secret ballot
yourself,
vote. Do you still want me as your nominee, or do you want to
What are Joy-Cons? The blue and red piece of trash? I've never used them once.
I think most of them kind of dealt with the appropriate.
I think it'd be useful if you want to travel with it and play on like the subway or whatever, wherever you go in your life.
And I think we can win all 3.
As mobile, I guess, maybe.
I
But
do feel like we're going to win the Senate. I
don't
think
know,
Marino's
dude.
going to win in Ohio. We've been campaigning with him. I like McCormick in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. We've done a lot of.
it's flimsy too. It's not.
At West Point.
It's weird.
in
It's
fact, he
not
called me
like
up.
super secure. It's like
Ratcliffe
flimsy
called
and
me,
shitty.
John, who was a colleague of
wouldn't
mine,
do
worked
it.
with President Trump, called me like a year and a half.
See,
2 years
if you
ago
can
and said,
use
hey,
a Pro
McCormick,
Controller,
wanna talk
even
to you? I said,
mobile,
fine.
even if you go
I can
somewhere,
talk to you.
you can bring your
So
fucking
we
Switch.
he
Might
calls
as
me
well
up, we
bring
start
the
talking,
fucking.
and he says, "Hey, I wrestled. I was
It
state
looks
champ in Pennsylvania.
uglier
was
and
captain
bigger.
of
Oh,
the
wow.
team at West Point." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you
Insane.
tell me that?" I said, "I'd have been for you last time if I'd have known that." He's a
Dude,
great
I've
guy.
never
I
used
think-
them.
I think he.
Ever.
I think he's going to win. So I think we're
Not
going to win the
once.
Senate. I think we're going to keep the House.
I don't even know how they
So-
feel.
That,
All good.
so now it's going to be interesting to see if this is like how in 2022 they say, well, there's going to be red wave, all this, and then boom. everybody
Nah,
will shout,
buddy,
oh, shit,
I wouldn't do it.
There is no red wave. So I'm
Unless-
curious to know what's going to happen,
Unless
whether
you want like
it'll happen
a
this time or not.
PSP
But I'm going to tell you a funny story, then I
Steam
got a
Deck
bunch of things I
type
want to
of
go into
setup
with you.
where it's like
I'm in
nice
the
and
Army,
big and
okay?
nice.
I'm 6'4". At the time, I'm 6'4", 6'4.5", and 225 pounds,
Yeah.
and 7-8% body fat.
Yeah, you're ripped.
I am ripped. I look good. Rob, pull up a picture. I can brag about what I used to look like at 18. And I feel good. Like if I'm fighting, if I'm wrestling, if
Oh,
I'm
wow.
doing what I'm doing.
For sure, brother.
You know, I'm feeling good about myself, okay? That's
No
the one right
kidding.
there. If you go to the second picture, Rob, the one right,
No
that's me in the
kidding.
arm. That's actually in the barracks. That's
Dang.
me 19 years old in the barracks, okay?
Yeah.
And,
You should have wrestled.
well, let
Holy
me
cow.
tell you what happened.
Look at him.
I didn't
Patrick
wrestle.
Bet
So
David
we're in
Jack.
boot camp, and we got 100 kids around, you know, and everybody's coming and we're fighting each other. And then this one kid comes to me. He's probably 5'6", 5'7", but I'm going to say 130 pounds. And he says, look, let me try. This is me, by the way. He says, let me try you. And I said, you want to try me? I said, look, I don't want to hurt you, honestly. This is not fair to you.
Yeah.
That's me 14 on the left. That's me 19
Did
in
some
the right.
lifting.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So we start. I said, I don't want to do this to you. There's people here I don't want to embarrass. He said, no, don't worry about embarrassment. I got to fix it.
Fat.
I'm telling
He's
you, I don't
fat
wanna do it.
now.
He said, just give me a shot.
Damn, dude. I guess so, eh?
I'm not even kidding.
I know what you're
In
gonna say.
6 seconds, I'm begging him to stop.
With a
And he
little front
does it
headlock.
with a smile on his face.
Yeah, that's so
So
funny.
I'm like, dude, what is the stop? And I'm like, what's the matter with you? He says, well, listen, you know, I'm pretty good at it. I says, why are you so good? He says, I was a state champion in Florida
yeah.
or Ohio, one of these. days.
Bro, I
So
had
she
to
told me
shut
something.
down-
Well, you were enjoying yourself too much. I wanted to surprise
I had to
you.
shut down
And
Cartman,
that's the
bro.
thing with wrestlers
Cartman's
sometimes. You can never
RIP.
tell. And then all of a sudden you're like,
Unless they got the ear.
yeah, unless they got the ear, which
Went
is
full
which is-
racist again
yeah,
on
we see the ear, it's a good
yesterday.
signal to say, how are you, sir?
Yeah,
You know,
Cartman.
Maybe, you know, the
kind.
approach changes a
You're
little
kind.
bit.
I wouldn't mess with you when you built like that.
But-
It's funny because we were this a couple years ago, and I was campaigning, helping a colleague in New Mexico. We're in El Paso, time change, late at night, And Polly's sleeping, I'm up, can't sleep, and I'm clicking through ESPN, I'm on there, and they're doing the, you know how Dana does the preview of the big fight coming up. It's like the week before, and so they're previewing how they train.
Sure.
And it was Khabib's protege, I forget the guy's name, he's the tough, in the same weight class as Khabib.
Khamzat or?
Ishmael, something like that, I forget. Anyway, they're showing him training, and then they're showing the guy from Brazil. So this is a couple years ago, and it's the big fight, and they show how they train and all, and it was funny because I'm watching it, and it's like the Brazilians is that's a different.
Is he the stocky, shorter guy?
The Khabib guy is the guy from Dagestan, who Khabib was training, and then the guy from Brazil was the longer, lankier Brazilian style, and they showed him training, but it was funny because the guys from the Dagestan group. They start with the wrestling base, and it showed them in the room training. I was like, that's exactly how our boys were training with my brother, and they shooting across the mat and different things. And I just watched the whole thing, and I thought, and I said, I think the wrestling guy, the guy who started with the wrestling base, the Khabib guy is going to win. Sure enough, the next week he beat him. He beat him I didn't get to see the fight, but it was funny because I said, who won that fight? And my boys were telling me so. There's something with that wrestling background.
It's a different thing with the wrestling side, right? It's a different skill set, but. Let's get right into it. So questions for you. Politics, Congress, 9 terms. You've been in there, right?
Yeah.
When you look at approval rating right now in America, lowest we've ever had in mainstream media. Americans don't trust mainstream media. It's 23, 24, 27, give or take. Number just came out from Gallup. It's the worst it's ever been. What is it right now? Anyways, it's the lowest it's ever been. Whatever the number is, it's the lowest it's ever been. Then when you look at trust in the U.S. government, again, low in the 20s, 27, lowest it's ever been. You see approval rating for Kamala Harris. You see approval rating for Trump. You see approval rating for Biden. You see all these approval ratings we hear about. Do you know the lowest approval rating in America right now is Congress, 16%. Why does nobody trust Congress today? Left, right, center, 16% is terrible. How do we get there?
Yeah, I think it's... Congress is, disappointing the American people. There's, I always joke and say, if you remember that movie 1776, the opening scene, John Adams is up in the bell tower, and the clerk calls, Mr. Adams, and he comes walking down, and he walks in there at Independence Hall, where they're getting ready to debate and put together the Declaration of Independence, and he walks in. The opening line of the movie, he says, 1 useless man is a disgrace. 2 are a law firm, and 3 or more are a Congress, and I've had it with this Congress. So I think it might have been there from
the lawyers. 3 is our Congress.
Yeah. One useless man's disgrace. 2 are a law firm, and 3 or more are Congress. So I think it might have been there from the get-go. It's like a frustrating body where you got to debate, and then of course this past Congress it's kind of fit what Adams described. Now what's interesting is, of course, no one likes Congress, but they all like their congressman. Or no one likes Congress, they all like their congresswoman. Because the re-election rate is huge for incumbents. But it is frustrating, and frankly, I think part of the problem too is when the founders set up this great experiment in liberty, the greatest country ever, 3 separate and equal branches of government. If there was one branch that was supposed to be a little more equal than the other, it was supposed to be the legislative branch. And in particular, the House of Representatives, because that's the body that's closest to the people. Every 2 years, voters get a chance to throw me out. I tell them all the time, that's a good thing. Keeps me honest, keeps me coming back talking to the voters. I get the privilege of representing. So it was supposed to be the one, and that's why under our Constitution, all spending and taxing has to originate in the House of Representatives, the body that every 2 years has to go in front of the people. What I think we've allowed to happen over the last several decades is the executive branch, the presidency, has now become the more dominant branch of government, and we need to reassert our authority, particularly when it comes to the power of the purse, and say, wait a minute, we're not going to let the executive branch run all over us, and in particular these huge bureaucracies that tend to run our lives via rule and everything else. And of course, the best example of someone who's never been elected, who ran our lives for 3.5 years, is Dr.
Congrats, buddy. Eat up, my man.
40 years in the government, highest paid official in the government, literally ran the country for 3 years and violated our liberties. I tell folks every time I give it, I'll say it tonight when I'm speaking to the group tonight. Every one of our liberties under the First Amendment was assaulted by the government in the Biden-Harris administration. Every single one. I mean, 5 rights we have: our right to practice our faith, our right to assemble, right to petition the government, free press, free speech, every single one. They told Americans during COVID, you can't go to church on Sunday. In America? That is just wrong. And then they, you know, I tell people, I spoke a couple years ago, the New Mexico Republican Party in Amarillo, Texas, because they had to go to Texas to get the freedom to assemble. Their governor, their Democrat governor, wouldn't let them get together in their own state where they pay taxes. And you can just keep, but the scariest one of all is what they're doing to the First Amendment, free speech, where they're telling Americans, you can't say certain things, you can't tweet certain things, you can't post certain things. Like, what in America? Think about this. Did you ever think we would have Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? And they are, because of this free speech thing. So I don't know even how we got all of this from, but I do think Congress needs to reassert its authority against these bureaucrats who run our lives, who never put their name on the ballot. Maybe if we did that, maybe the country would go from 16% approval rating at least up to 17%.
I guess my question would be, you know, to follow up on that part, is when you asked the question about did I ever think Elon Musk, Trump, Tulsi, RFK, all these guys, about a year and a half ago when Tucker got fired from Fox, I think in April or May, and I saw a meeting that was had with Tucker went to Musk to do Twitter, and he said he's taking a show on Twitter, and the first show came out, and we're like, whoa, and then it was like, oh my God. I said, I think there's an alliance being created with Elon, Tucker, and
great point,
and Trump. It's like, what are you talking about? I said, I think there's an alliance being made between these 3 guys. Something's going on there. And then when Bobby started going on all these podcasts, and he's going, I had him on early in COVID, 2020, 2021. I had him one time. Him and Dershowitz were debating each other. It was great.
Yeah.
And I said, Bobby's willing to go everywhere. He's going to do something. Then he got the independent vote, and then Trump is able to bring him in. Then Tulsi, she's being bullied around by Hillary. She's a Russian asset. She's this. Like, what are you doing? She's actually very formidable. It was insulting where they don't know how to keep talent. Like, it's almost as if certain companies, you know, you're a coach. Phil Jackson knew how to deal with big egos. He know how to deal with Michael. He know how to deal with Rodman. He know how to deal with Scotty. He know how to deal with Kobe. He know how to deal with Shaq. That's a skill set. It's as if the Democratic Party had a lot of these talents. They just don't know how to keep Elon. They don't know how to keep Rogan. They don't know how to keep RFK. They don't know how to keep Tulsi. So they keep losing talent. How do you lose all this great talent that's leaving you going elsewhere? That just means there's not good leadership there. But going back to it, so in free enterprise, free market, if approval rating is not high, you get fired. You've been in it.
Follow your heart, man.
Terms, right? And you know you hear term limits all the time. One, what's your position with term limits?
I'm actually for. I mean, look, I've been in office for different offices now, state rep, state senate, and Congress, 30 years. But I actually supported the effort when it was in our state back in 1992. We went to the ballot in Ohio to limit the terms, and we passed it for State House, State Senate, and for United States Congress. The Supreme Court said, okay, you can keep it in Ohio for
loose
skin.
But
Congress, you can't, because other states have got different things, and we can't have that unequal amongst the states there. So I think newer, fresher people is typically a good thing. I mean, on balance, I think it's a good thing. You're going to lose some good people. But,
wow, that actually does sound like Jim Jordan.
So if we ever enact it, I'll abide by it when it happens.
Loose skin, holy shit.
But
how many are your friends? How many total people in Congress? What's the number?
I bet it's not a majority.
How many people would be for it?
Yeah, it's not. It'd be less. It wouldn't be enough to pass. I don't think.
Less than 10%?
No, it'd be more than that. There's a number of conservatives who'd support it, and it would. I think it's important it'd be equal to the Senate. So I think you'd probably have to go 12 and 12. You get 6 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate, 12 and 12. If you do that, and of course we've had term limits on the president now for since FDR.
Okay, so let me ask you the question. Okay, so let's just say I come to you and I say, Jim, cameras off, phones off, I just want to have a conversation with you. I'm thinking about running for office, okay?
Great.
And here's some of the things I would like to have an outlandish campaign to come out, like, hey, build a wall or do this. Not some basic stuff that everybody keeps talking about, repeating, you're like everybody else. I don't want to be Me Too. I want to come out with a new campaign, okay? So, one, only 2 countries in the world Big Pharma can advertise in, okay, on TV, mainstream media. You got U.S. and New Zealand. That's one. I'd like to eliminate them from them being able to advertise on national television and allow doctors to do their job to make the prescription instead of them buying TV ads, right? Pfizer paying guys $20 million. The other day I saw John Legend with a Pfizer ad for COVID shot. It's been 4 years. Can you find out how much John Legend got paid for the COVID shot? I know Kelsey got $20 million. I don't know what John Legend. We can probably find that out and see what the number is. But I want to eliminate that. I don't want John Legend telling me to take a COVID shot. No, get out of here. I don't want to watch you. Go play your music. Your music will play at many different weddings. I don't want you to be a doctor coming up telling me why we should take the COVID shot because of you. Okay. So number one is Big Pharma outside of advertising.
Yeah.
Two is term limits. I want to run on term limits, and I want to get that done. Impossibility.
Yeah.
Three, I want to run on, we're going to take Fauci down, and we're going to investigate everything that happened. Okay,
I like that.
We're going to find out exactly what happened. Number four, I want to hold China accountable because everybody's forgotten about what happened with China with the release of the virus. We haven't been able to do that. If there's got to be an element of reparations that they did for the world to stop, for the amount of months that they stopped, the millions of restaurants, jobs that was lost, the $50 million in the hospitality business industry that we lost, the 100,000 restaurants that shut down, whatever the numbers, 50 to 100,000. These are family-owned business that were shut down. If I told you one of those four I want to run on and add flat taxes to it, tell me which one's the most likely that you can get it done to the least likely of getting it done.
Well, first of all, the term limits requires a constitutional amendment. So that's a long process to amend our Constitution. So that's tough. The first one was on limiting advertising.
Big Pharma.
Yeah, you may have a chance with that. I think it's difficult, and of course you'd have the pharmaceutical industry, working against you. Yeah, of course. And then going after Fauci, I think the country's with you. The country remembers. I'm certainly with you. I've been going after that guy for. I still remember one time when he was in front of the hearing. I think I asked him this question like 100 times in 5 minutes. When do we get our liberty back? What measure? What metric? What has to happen before Americans get their First Amendment rights back? And he just it was. I got. It's one of the few times I really actually got mad at the witness. So I'm all for doing that one. Now, as far as any crime or anything, I don't know that that's there, but that would obviously be up to the Justice Department. And then on China, I think that is critically important. You want to go specifically regarding COVID, but in a general sense, we understand China. We got to beat them in AI. That's the competition out there.
I'm talking reparations.
Yeah.
You stopped the world. You released the virus. You were irresponsible because of you. This is how much the world lost on what you did. All these families that have history, relationship, we have to hold you accountable. So
remember, you couldn't even say that.
I know you couldn't even say that. I know.
That's the censorship stuff.
So right here, based on this, would you say term limits is the hardest one because it's long term?
Yeah, because it requires a constitutional amendment.
Okay. Would you put Big Pharma, Fauci, China, flat tax? Which one would you put as the second toughest one? Flat tax, China, holding Fauci accountable, Big Pharma.
I don't. The flat taxes. We all like that simple tax system. That concept better. We're gonna do tax reform if we win everything like I think we're going to. Obviously, the tax cuts that we put in place back in 2017 with President Trump are up for reauthorization, so we have to get that done in 25 next year. So you could do maybe something on in a flatter way, but a clean flat tax would probably be tough. But we're definitely going to do tax reform. We get the majority. We're going to use this. The fancy term is reconciliation, but it's a fancy term to avoid the 60-vote hurdle in the Senate. We will use that approach to get tax reform done and tax cuts done and reauthorize most of what happened in 17, which was so good for the economy. So that's certainly part of that's possible. The others I think are pretty tough as well.
Got it. So you're saying so you're not thinking the Big Pharma thing's going to be tough to do?
No, it would be. I just know the way the lobbying thing works, and I'm not on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Some of these committees do. I'm on the committees where we're always in a debate and doing an investigation, judiciary and oversight. But the better answer would come from them. But I think there's probably a possibility that happens.
Got it. Yeah,
but you got to run first.
No, I'm not born here, so I can't run. You would have to create some amendments for me to be able to run.
Yeah. Well, you're a citizen, right?
I'm a U.S. citizen.
Well, of course. So you could run for Congress. You want to run for president?
If there was any, like, I'm not, because for me right now, what we're building, we're growing rapidly, business-wise, company. I enjoy capitalism. I enjoy the free market. It's easy to compete. I know if I'm going to lose here, I'm going to win here. This is the dollar amount. It's very transactional. It's easier. Politics. Eric Trump was here last week, and he says, in politics, at least in business, you know if you're going to get a better deal or not because there's dollars involved. Both people want to build this hotel. Both people want to make this company work. Both people want to make the money. Politics, it's a different game.
Yes, I get it, but there's a, as we talked earlier, there's a competitive aspect to it too. I think it was one of the. I think it was. I may be wrong in this, but I think it was one of the Kennedys, and maybe I'm wrong. But someone once said, one of the Kennedys, I think, said, "Politics the only game left for grown-ups," and there's that competition. And I like it because I'm fighting for the folks back home, the families, taxpayers, communities I get the privilege of representing, and. But there is that competition component that I think is important too. In the history of the country, this is, I think, amazing about this country. In the history of this country, only about 12,000 people have ever served in the United States Congress. It is a privilege. It is an honor. And I try to remember that. And when I go there, it's like, okay, my job is to fight for the folks back home. Now, I literally think about this. I even said this to Fauci in one of the times I was cross-examining him in a hearing, that my job is to fight for those folks back home, and they want an answer to why their liberty has been restrained because of you, and when is it going to end? And so, but it is a privilege, and I know you're doing great in all you do here, but you should run for Congress.
I am so interested in your world. Trust me, I am very interested in your world. A guy like Elon, you see how Elon's being involved right now. So do you think, even at a level from your perspective where you're at, because, you're Congress. You're not going to be around for 2 years, 4 years. You can be around for as long as you want. You can be around for the next 20 years if you wanted. It's purely on you to decide to step away. Who is more powerful in your eyes, a Trump or a Musk?
Well, both are extremely powerful. But I mean, President Trump has transformed the party. He's the leader. We are now, and this is a good thing, we are now a populist party rooted in conservative principle. And that last part's really important. You can't just be pure populist. But we are a much more populist party, much more working class, middle class party rooted in conservative principles. President Trump has brought that about. What I think Elon has really done has focused in on this idea of protecting liberty, protecting First Amendment free speech rights. And he's just been powerful in that regard. I called him up because I had talked to Elon a few times with Kevin. And we had one of those meetings with Kevin. I still remember Elon Musk telling me, he used the term, he said, GARM is harm. And GARM is this, you guys might deal with them, Global Alliance for Responsible Media. And basically
what's up, Jersey? How are you? How you doing?
Kind of coordinate together to say, oh, you shouldn't
Jersey,
advertise
how you
your
doing?
product on this particular podcast, this particular website, this particular platform, because it could be a reputational risk to your brand. And he said, and basically what they do is they were saying, don't advertise on anything conservative. Breitbart, Federalist, Twitter, don't do that. And I still remember when Elon said GARM is harm. We started investigating, found that it was exactly like you described.
You're the smartest person I know.
Short, because of our investigation, GARM went out of business.
You're a genius. You're so nice. How are you?
We felt like it was almost an antitrust violation. That's from the Judiciary Committee's perspective. That's why we looked into them. So. Yeah, what
in
Elon's
a talking stage? What's talking stage? What does that mean?
By the way,
what do you mean?
When I talked with RFK Jr. a few weeks back when he endorsed President Trump, I called him up to thank you, and we started laughing because you had him on your show.
I hope you're okay.
I'd invite him in as a witness.
In talking
and
stage.
I told him I'd invite him, Tulsi, the Schellenberger and Taibbi, the Twitter Files guys. And I told Elon, I probably invited more Democrats in as a witness than any Republican chairman. I said, I took some heat when I invited you in a year and a half ago because, Democrat candidate named Kennedy running for president. But I joked and I said, but we kind of look like geniuses now that this coalition's coming together. But by the way, in that hearing, now think about this issue in the Democrat Party. In that hearing, one of the Democrats, RFK Jr.'s testified. One of the Democrats, I think it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Are you with someone right now? Are you in a relationship?
Made a motion to go to executive session.
Did you flirt with someone?
And no cameras, no citizens can see what their government's up to that day in that particular congressional hearing. So she made a motion to not let people see what RFK Jr. was going to testify to in a hearing on censorship. Think about that. Like,
you're with someone right now? You're in a relationship?
Like, it's the most well-known name in Democrat politics for the last 3/4 of a century, and Democrats are trying to kick him out, not let anyone hear what he has to say. So you talk about they're the party of censorship. They certainly
if you cheated on your
of like
boyfriend,
defending the First Amendment, it's like crazy. But you know, RFK Jr. said something at that hearing. They said when he endorsed President Trump, and I've never forgotten it. And I told him this on the phone. I said, when you testified in the hearing, you said...
What does that mean, the talking stage?
It is never the good guys who are for censorship. It is always the bad guys. And that is so true. And I think Americans are seeing through this. And this is there was a
like
survey
no
last
physical
week where number one
activity,
issue is inflation, number
just
two
flirting.
First Amendment, protecting the First Amendment. Head of the border, head of other issues.
I saw that.
And I was like, holy cow, that's amazing.
I saw that. So Elon even tweeted that out to show what
but
the number was about. We talked about it on the
what do you
podcast.
mean? Were you
But
just
Fauci,
like flirting?
The Fauci we see, you've spent more time with them. You've had
verbally
time with them one-on-one, your fights. Rob, do you have a clip of one of the fights? Let's post one of these to remind people, because a lot of time when time goes by, we forget how nasty things were during
We're
COVID.
flirting hard.
Go ahead and play this clip.
That call would have been on the call. Well, the call was arranged by Jeremy Farrar. You should ask him.
That's okay.
Did U.S. tax dollars flow through a grant recipient to the lab in China?
Did you follow through?
I'm sorry.
Physically?
Did U.S. tax dollars flow through a grant recipient to the lab in China? Yes, of course. It was a sub-award.
Yeah, stage you and your boyfriend didn't really speak.
Excuse me?
I understand.
That award? What agency approved that award? National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Your agency approved that, right? Yes, it did. After. Did that have anything to do with?
Well, did you physically
No.
get with the other person?
Nothing. What? Prior to that.
That is wild.
No.
Going through that, right?
Yeah.
And you're hearing that being said. What was the other one?
Zoe.
You said that was a fiery one.
Oh, this was back during COVID, where I actually had to, I think, wear them.
It's okay, Jersey. You have a big heart.
You had a mask on?
He said I was. What
You have a
did
big heart.
he say? He
Is
said
this the one?
I lost it. One of these. It might
Talked. Yeah, that's okay.
Continue this forever, or when do we get to the point? What
No,
measure,
you
what
didn't- you
standard, what
didn't-
objective,
if you didn't
outcome do we
physically-
have to reach before
But it's
Americans
okay,
get
I
their
mean, if
liberty
you
and
were-
freedoms back? You know, you're
You need to know
liberty and freedom. I look at it as
what
a public
state
health measure
you
to
were
prevent
in with
people from
your
dying and going
boyfriend
to
at the
the
time,
hospital.
whether you were together or
Americans'
not.
liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci.
Poop.
They've
Oh,
been
for
assaulted.
Fauci, yeah.
Their liberties have. I don't look at this as a liberty thing, Congressman Jordan. Well, that's obvious. As a public health thing. Are we just
So how different is he behind closed doors when the cameras are off?
What, that you
when he's being
flirted?
held
Just say,
accountable?
like, you know, I mean,
I mean, my assessment is he's
follow your heart.
drinking all the time.
Follow your
So
heart,
that-
Jersey.
I mean, I was actually in part of the deposition with him too when.
Did he ask if you were
the
flirting?
select committee deposed him.
Just be on. I mean,
Obviously,
just be
the
honest with
boyfriend
him.
was back there and
It'll bring you two
that's
closer
the situation,
together.
but He just
Follow your heart.
The thing I look at is everything he told
But
us
don't
about-
make him think like you cheated when you didn't. That's
they
not.
initially
Don't do
told
that.
us, oh no, it wasn't gain of function research done at the lab in China.
Just say you were
It looks
talking
like it
and
was.
some
They
guys
told us it
from
wasn't
there.
our tax money used at the lab in China. Yes, it was. They told us it didn't come from the lab. No, it didn't come from the lab. It was a bat to a pangolin to a hippopotamus to we all get like. Then they said the vaccinated can't get it. The vaccinated can't transmit it. They said mask work. They said 6 feet social distance was based on science.
Yeah, but you don't have
And
to
then
lie. Did he
the
ask?
kicker was when they told us, oh, this is the first virus in history where there's no such thing as natural immunity. He was 0 for 8, right? Eight things he told us that were false, and meanwhile he's telling us all these false things, and you can't go outside in certain states without a mask on. If you walk your dog after 10 o'clock, you're going to get a ticket. Tim Walz was telling people to snitch on their neighbor. Like, what is that? Based on all this stuff that we got from this guy, who's paid $400-some thousand by the taxpayers, who's worked for the taxpayers been in government for over 40 years. It just was frustrating.
But then the question becomes, okay, so you say that, right? To me, Americans are very quick to move on. Look how they forgot about it. You forgot that your kids didn't go to school for a year and a half, and little kids, 2, 3-year-old kids had masks on, couldn't breathe, and the teachers will put it back on. Or on flights, your kid can't put the mask on, you got to get off the flight. Dude, the kid doesn't want to put the mask on, you got to get him off the flight. What are you talking about? My kid doesn't want. Moms are screaming, crying, the chaos, the power trip that these airlines had.
Yeah.
To then, I sit there and I think, why is Congress at 16%? Is it because nobody ever gets held accountable? Is it because, what is the level? Like, imagine for the people that are still not over it. They're still kind of like, okay, how old is this guy right now? Is he 84
okay,
or
Jonesy.
81? What's his age? He's 83.
If you want to
years
break
old.
with someone
What's
and
his
you
age?
talk with someone, it's
83
okay.
years old.
If you feel guilty and you want to tell them, the thing is, like,
interesting. Except she's not 1940. She's
what would be the goal of telling them all that?
Is this guy ever going to be held
just to clear your conscience,
probably the
which is
question I
obviously
get.
important. You have to take care of yourself,
Sometimes
follow your
even
heart,
they would
honestly.
look even more direct. They're like, when is someone going to jail?
I wouldn't
Jordan?
tell
And
them.
it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's because
all we can
it's
do,
like,
yeah,
it's irrelevant if you
It's
didn't.
frustrating, but it's
if you didn't
true.
ask,
all we
right,
can do
like-
in Congress, in the legislative branch, is do our duty of oversight, get the facts to the American people. Then we can do referrals. If we think someone is guilty of criminal conduct, we can refer them to the Justice Department. But that, if that goes anywhere, depends on Merrick Garland and the folks at the Justice Department. We can also propose legislation that would help, fix something or do.
If it's his, like, friend and you were, like,
But we can't
asking his friend
prosecute or
out,
indict him.
maybe you
It's-
should tell
it's
him, but
frustrating for the American people, but that's where we. So what we try to do is get the facts out. Now, sometimes just the facts will make a
that
difference.
is true, Toad.
I use the
Right, and it's like,
example all
what's
the
the
time.
exactly what's the
Remember
goal of
2
it?
years
To make the other
ago,
person feel bad,
remember
feel
when,
sad, or
the
sounds
Department
like
of
it's more of a
Homeland
personal
Security was going to
purification of the soul to improve their
began to
relationship,
establish
which I believe, because
disinformation
Guernsey is a
government
great
report.
person.
As if some bureaucrats can tell us what we.
But
can say,
I
what
know
we
very
can't
few
say.
details of
Crazy.
this.
What's misinformation? What's disinformation? What's malinformation? All these crazy terms again. And we made a big stink about that. I bet you talked about it. And all kinds of conservative folks around the country were talking about it. And
I would
long
not
story
stress too
short,
much about it. I would just go see him
Biden
and
administration-
do stuff, make new
we
memories
decided
and
to
stuff.
cancel the Disinformation Governance Board, and it's because we made a big
Go out.
like that doesn't square with
Take
the
a
First
walk
Amendment.
around
Another
town.
good example was the IRS used to have agents make unannounced visits to American citizens' homes.
Beautiful
And
or
then
Rotterdam.
the commissioner announced a year and a half, 2 years ago that, we're gonna stop that. We're concerned about our agents and blah blah blah. And I'm like, the reason you stopped this because we caught you. Literally, when Matt Taibbi was testifying in front of our committee, the IRS on the Twitter files come in front of our committee while he's testifying. The IRS was knocking on his door. I mean, you talk about, and there's not one person I've related this story to. It was big news at the time. No one thinks that was just a coincidence. That just happened. Everyone thinks that's the government trying to chill speech, it turned out they actually owed Taibbi money. The IRS did, but I mean they're knocking on his door while he's testifying in front of our committee. So that they no longer do that. So there's some progress. I mean, I talked about GARM, some other things we're doing, but as far as people being held accountable, it is frustrating to the American people. I understand it, but you got to have a Justice Department.
In your opinion, nothing's going to happen to Fauci, based on what you're saying. Yeah. So he's going to. Okay. So then let me ask a different question. You know how in free market, free enterprise, Elon buys X, Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, all these guys. There's a whole crew of them. Twitter files. Wow. Biden administration talking to YouTube, Google, take this guy, suspend this guy.
Yeah.
Twitter, hey, you guys gonna? Then Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, all this. Can Trump, if he gets elected, say he wins next Tuesday, he wins.
Oh, let's hope.
Yeah, he
Let's
wins.
hope.
Can he assign folks to go do FBI files, CIA files, to go do DOJ files, Fauci files, CDC files? And would America benefit from someone actually exposing the level of corruption that some of these officials had talking to these different social media companies? But I'm talking government communication with them, not the other way around. Because in order for us to find out, we would have to buy Google. There's nobody that can afford to buy Google right now. It's $1 trillion,
Yeah.
$1.5 trillion. You would have to buy Facebook. You would have to buy these guys. But flip it. If we assign people to go that route, can you get to the bottom of it?
Yeah, I think you can, and we've done some of that. For example, you mentioned, I always use this example because it's the most sort of prominent one. And it was an email on the third day of the Biden administration. So I think it was January 22nd, 23rd. There's an email from Clark Humphrey in the executive office of the president, the White House, an email to Twitter. And the email says, take down this tweet ASAP. And the tweet was from RFK Jr. And the tweet was, if you remember when, we were talking earlier, you love baseball, when Hank Aaron passed away, RFK Jr. did a tweet. He said, Hank Aaron passed away after taking the COVID shot. He took the shot to encourage black Americans to get vaccinated. So what's that? 3 sentences. Every single one of those sentences is accurate. Every sentence is true. He took the shot. He passed away after the shot, and he was doing so to encourage black Americans to get vaccinated. And the Biden-Harris administration wanted that taken down. And I'm like, it's a true state. There's all true statements. But that is the level of censorship. So we've been able to expose some of that, but certainly if President Trump gets in, he can, because we've subpoenaed, and it's always a fight with this agency, that agency, whether it's FBI, CISA, the White House, whatever. We even brought in some of these people. We depose them. We have them in a hearing. We do all that, and then we put out the reports that lay out the facts. But certainly, President Trump gets in, you're going to get a new FBI director. You're going to get a new Attorney General. And they can dig into stuff with the Justice Department. You're going to get a new person running the Department of Homeland Security. They can dig into any information there. But you can look at what kind of communication was going from the government to these big tech companies.
Is swamp a real thing? Okay. So how easy is it how easy is it within FBI, within DOJ, within CIA, within all these institutions to identify who the swamps are?
Well, it starts at the top. I actually think we use the FBI as an example. I think the vast majority of the agents are good people. We have 2 former agents who work for the committee. They're great guys. They're right out of Central Casting, Irish name, Italian name, from Pittsburgh and Cleveland. They're just good guys who help us as we're looking at them. They tell us, here's how they would do it, So it's been really, I think the agents are great people, but it's the people at top, it's the people in D.C. that are the problem. If you go back to the whole spying on Trump's campaign back in 2016, when it was, Strzok and Page and all the Klein Smith, the lawyer for the FBI, who lies to the FISA court, changes an email, turns it around 180 degrees to get the warrant to go spy on folks associated with President Trump's campaign. That's the problem. These weren't like agents who came up through the streets in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and New York and Rose. These were like lawyers who were working in D.C. for the FBI, and you saw the bias and the disdain they had. Remember the one email from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page? He's in the Walmart in Virginia, and he's in the Northern Virginia. He says, "I can smell the Trump supporters." And it was like the disdain they have for us, country folk like me from Ohio and folks across the heartland and everything else. So, yeah, there's.
Who can Trump fire? Who can he not fire?
I've encouraged, and I've said this to the press, but I believe it. Come in, fire everyone you're allowed to fire. And then, frankly, fire a few people you're not allowed to fire. Make them take you to court to send a message like there is a new sheriff back in town, and we're going to make this agency, we're going to make this government work for the people. And then the real thing he's looking to do is put Elon in charge of making the government a little more efficient, for goodness sake. So I think that is the attitude that I think his team has. Certainly the attitude I think the president has.
So when you say come in and fire everybody, and some you're not supposed to fire, so what's the number? You just said earlier 12,000 people in the history of America have been members of Congress. It's a very elite organization. It's very honorable to be one of 12,000. Hasn't happened that many times, and God knows how many people have lived in the U.S. since 1776. Yeah. What is that number of how many people to fire to clean house?
Well, there are certain people, historically, of course, you come in, we'll use the Justice Department since, we're on the Judiciary Committee. You fire all the U.S. attorneys, just like there's, I forget what the number, I forget the number of U.S. attorneys in the districts around the country. You fire all them. I think you come in and get rid of the FBI director. You come in and get rid of, obviously the cabinet's going to be new. But there's a level of people at the top of these agencies that are political appointments. I would you got to get rid of all that, I think. And then if there's some level below where you want to, like this person, maybe they need to go too. And just, again, to demonstrate we're going to make the agencies not be weaponized against the American people, but actually serve we the people who pay their salaries, who pay the taxes. That's supposed to be how the government operates.
How do you filter out the swamp, though? How do you know who's swamp? How do you know who's swamp?
It's all about leadership at the agency. It'll take a while to figure it out.
What are signs? Like if I were to, because remember, like he talked about it, first time he came around, he didn't know anybody in D.C., so he's just kind of hiring people left and right. Nowadays there's rumors circulating who he's going to hire as his chief of staff that's going to help him with all the other people and all these names that we're hearing about. But how do you identify who's swamp?
I think it's like any organization. You have to have leadership matters. So okay, if you got to pick the guy who's going to, again, let's say lead the FBI and say, okay, here's how we're operating. We're not going to be, kicking in the door of some pro-life activists in Philadelphia and put him in handcuffs in front of his wife and children. We're gonna handle things different. Just an example that come to mind. But it all starts with the people at the top, and it starts with smart people who are committed to the Constitution and them getting in there, and whether it's what they've done in business, identifying key people who they can trust, who are going to do the right thing. I think it's all about leadership. And, of course, that starts with President Trump as commander-in-chief and head of the executive branch, and then right on down through each of these agencies.
How different is the approach on the second term? Because in my mind, I'm thinking strategy. First term, you're not going to do everything, because you kind of will do 60% of what you want to do, but you got to keep some of the real stuff that you want to do on your second term to get reelected, so you're not a one-term president, because that's embarrassing. You want to be a two-term, so maybe you'll keep the 40 and surprise everybody on the second term because you don't give a shit about getting re-elected, right? Okay. So how different is it now, second term, not back-to-back, if he wins, how different is a second term being used on a few different lenses that I'm looking at this? One, if I'm mainstream media, Trump gets elected, I don't know if Trump is my enemy anymore. I think the number one enemy for me will be who's going to be constant, which is probably going to be Elon. And I think the number two enemy for me will be J.D. Vance, because he can be a two-term president. So I think Trump actually drops to 3 long-term, 1 short-term, but he goes to 3 long-term because Vance is actually formidable enough that he can go up toe-to-toe against anybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now, what different kind of a Trump are we gonna see in the second term that we didn't see on the first term?
Well, I think he even admitted this in his recent interview with our conversation with Joe Rogan, that one of the things I think Rogan asked him what any regrets, and he said some of the people he hired in the first term, and I know he regrets, Jeff Sessions and stuff that he did at the Justice Department. So I think he will come in a much better way. Like he's already thinking about, I assume, and his team is, and Lutnick is doing the transition. Getting ready if and when President Trump wins, which again I think he's going to, putting together that team is going to be ready to go. The other thing is, this is why it's important we win the Senate and maintain the majority in the House, is I think the mandate is clear if we win everything. Reauthorize the tax cuts, get this economy going. Stop and think about it. Democrats win, they're talking about taxing unrealized gains. Maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So we win, we reauthorize the tax cuts, put the tax package in place, secure the border. A lot of that President Trump can do, executive order, dealing with Mexico, getting back to remain in Mexico, working with the Mexican government and then common sense energy policy. Energy is the key. I always say, if you want to, the world is safer and better when America leads. If you want to lead militarily, diplomatically, you have to lead economically. You want to lead economically, you got to have readily available energy at affordable cost. Get back to common sense energy policy, and then continue to work on this, stopping these agencies from being weaponized against the country. I think that's the mandate. So come in, pick the people who are totally in agreement with 1, 2, 3, and protecting liberty and First Amendment, all the things that we've talked about, and then put them in place and let's go. So that's how it has to work, and I think the transition team with Linda McMahon, Lutnick, Eric, and Don Jr. and all are working on putting that together. So if, in fact, next Tuesday goes like I think it's going to go, like I think we think it's going to go, hit the ground running, and get, like President Trump, get America, make America great again.
How different do you approach second versus first? You've been around 94 when he became president, when he went into this business. I think Clinton was president, right? First term.
Well, I was in state government, but yeah, right, I came to Congress in 6 of the last 2 years of Bush administration.
Last 2 years of Bush.
And I had all of Obama, and then.
So how and you're a guy that studies history. You're the guy that studies this business. You're super competitive. How is second term typically treated differently than first?
Yeah, I think in a broad context, legacy. I think President Trump already has a great legacy. He put the embassy in Jerusalem. He got out of the Iran deal. He built the wall. He cut regulations. He did the big tax cut package. He put conservatives, 3 of them, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Coney Barrett, on the court, changed the federal court system in a good way, lower judges as well. So I think he's already got pretty, I tell people, best president in my lifetime, as far as doing what he said he was going to do, certainly. And I think now it's legacy. Can he do better in the Middle East and build on the Abraham Accords? Can he get our economy roaring again? Can he get back to common sense energy policy where we're, as he says, we're no longer just energy independent, we're energy dominant? All those things, I think, is what he's focused on.
Okay. Who is the leader or the leaders of the swamp? You've been in it. You negotiate with some of these guys. Who are some of the leaders and influencers, the E.F. Huttons of the swamp?
Well, I just think it's the left. You know, the left and all their crazy policies and how the bureaucracy seems to sort of move that way. And how would I guess, you know, I always say the left seems to me the divide in America today. This is what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said this, and I totally agree with her. If you remember, she did the response to the State of the Union a year and a half ago. She did a great job. And it's a tough job because the response, you're in a room talking to a camera. You know, the president comes into the chamber, and the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court delights the camera. It's a big. But she did the response, and her best line I thought was when she said, "The divide in America today is normal versus crazy." And so, it seems like the whole bureaucracy's got these crazy left-wing positions, and the left just sort of reinforces it.
But name, faces, who are they?
It's the top people. Again, I look at look at Homeland Security. I kind of focus on the agencies that we deal with, but look at Homeland Security. They tried to set up a disinformation governance board. Mayorkas will come in front of Congress and never give us an answer to any question. And when he does, he says he doesn't know. I mean, I remember a couple years ago asking, you know, at the time there were so many, 40-some people, I think was the number at the time, who had come into the country who were on the terrorist watch list. And I said, what's their status? Have they been detained? Where are they detained? And he said, I don't know. I'm like, well, dude, you're the head of Homeland Security. Homeland Security, you kind of should know if they've been detained, and if so, where are they detained at? And he had to get back with it. So it's people like Mayorkas and the key people who you know work in the upper parts of the Department of Homeland Security as an example. And I think the same thing applies at Justice. Top people of the Justice Department are they're the ones who run the Justice Department. And then there's just some probably people you don't know the names of.
That's what I want to know.
Career people who were there, who were working. Well, here's a good example. The Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department is going after Virginia. Talked to Glenn Youngkin the other night, because Virginia is saying we only think citizens should vote in the election, and they're saying, oh, you can't do that 90 days before an election. That violates the National Voting Registration Act, and so now Virginia has to go all the way to the Supreme Court for something that's common sense, because the Civil Rights Division and the lawyers there and the Justice Department are going after Young. They're doing the same thing in Ohio. They sent our Secretary of State a similar letter. Our Secretary of State called me 2 weeks ago and said, look, I got this letter. All these questions they're asking, all to kind of intimidate, it seems to me, Secretary of States and governors who are doing the right thing. So it's those kind of folks who kind of career people, but at the top levels of that. And that's why I'm saying fire everyone you're allowed, and maybe fire some of those people to send a message.
What leverage do you have the most when you're negotiating with your peers? Like when you're sitting there and you guys are behind closed doors, cameras are not on, okay? Are there certain people that you know we're not getting nothing done with that guy or that gal? And then you're like, no, here's a leverage. We're going to get it done because these are the 3, 4, 5 things that we use as a lever for leverage.
The ultimate leverage is the one we're not willing to use much, is the power of the purse. I mean, that's how the founders envisioned it. Legislative branch supposed to use the power of the purse, supposed to use, you know, the appropriations process to say, hey, agency, if you're not going to give us information we need, if you're not going to do things right for the American people, sorry, you're not getting as much money as you got last time. Or maybe we're going to hold your budget up until you do. I mean, that is exactly how the founders envisioned the process working. Unfortunately, what I think's happened is we've let the executive branch kind of, we're not willing to exercise that authority in the way we. Now, you can't be crazy about it. Like, nobody wants a government shutdown, but I've argued if we're in this negotiation, if you pick one really powerful issue and stand firm on it and negotiate with
Let's see if I can see this link thanks to the amazing Elon Musk talking about free speech and and
gets all
then
confusing.
requiring an
But if you're
account
focused
to
and I think
see
surgical about it,
said
you can
free
use the
speech
power of the
kappa.
purse, and we got to do a better job of doing that.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense to me, right?
I can see it.
Why,
Amazing.
why don't they? Why don't you use it? For example, hey, we need $2.1 billion for this. No, we're not giving it to you. You see what happened? Look at Congress. We could have fixed this border a long time ago if they would have only approved that. No, but $60 billion was going to Ukraine. You know, whatever the number was, $19 billion was going to Israel and Palestine. Only $18 billion of it was going to the border and all the other stuff. You guys were 80% of it was going to. No, but that was a border bill. Less than 15%, 18% of the money was going to the actual border. You named it a border bill, but they're able to get out there, right? Why don't you just stay tight with it? Why release that money? Why release that money to those folks?
Look, I agree with you. But you got to have the votes to do it. And there are times
real?
that we.
This is real life.
The House, though.
Well, I agree. I get it, but some of our colleagues just don't want to go there.
Who has
real,
the biggest backbone you've worked with that had the biggest brass that could say no and we're not going to compromise? Who's somebody that the other side was like, damn, we can't get nothing done through this guy?
Well,
This is not true.
President Trump can
confirms the
negotiate.
statement is fake.
And you know, we got
No, I
the tax
don't
cut
wanna sign
package done
into-
when he was there.
Fuck
He
you,
did
X.
just a number. We got regulatory reform. He stood firm and got his Supreme Court justices confirmed.
Is it fake?
Yeah, he's been
I'm gonna
I think,
say it's fake.
real top.
Who else? But not president.
But you mean in
Trust the guy
Congress?
with
Like
the paint
Congress,
chip
Senate,
company.
somebody
Yeah.
where you're like, they fear this guy.
Well, I think it has to be. You have to have a majority of the Republic. You got to have a majority of the Congress is willing
I
to
don't
stand
understand
firm
how
on
people think he
something.
did anything
I
for
argue
free
the
speech when we
example I use
can't.
is from a year ago.
He closed fucking
We
X.
have these
He made it so
10
that
resolutions.
newspaper and
Not the way you
websites
should
can still
operate. You should
exist.
just pass the appropriation bills, the individual bills. But continuing resolutions
Fucker.
aren't all bad if you're
Not you,
gaining
Musk.
something in the process. And I argued when we were in one of these situations a year ago, going up to September 30th, the end of our
insane.
fiscal year. I said, if we're going to do a continuing resolution, let's stand firm on something. Say, okay, we'll fund the government at the level you guys want.
It's crazy.
We'll do it. We won't do the individual bills. We'll fund but we want to fix the border. And we should have attached, I thought, some simple language that said, no money can be used to process or release into the country any new migrants. So just
That's
call
scary.
a timeout on the asylum claim. Not a timeout on people with a legitimate visa or anything, but people coming in claiming asylum.
There's probably
You
some
know, most of those people aren't
angry
legitimate
fucking
claims.
disabled people out there.
Let's just call a timeout on that and hold firm on
I mean,
that.
if there's
After
fucking
all,
mass
even Mayor Adams
shooters
in New York was
of
saying,
able
this
people,
will
imagine
have
mass shooters of
millions and
disabled
millions of
people. Oh my
migrants just
god.
coming into our country like the Biden and Harris administration was doing. And unfortunately, we couldn't get the votes.
Doing that for
So
his thoughts.
That's how I think.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
learned a long time ago in politics. One really
True.
good issue
Good
beats
point.
15 pretty good issues every time. And we had a really good issue that if we're in a fight on appropriations and on spending, we should have focused
That's a
on.
good question.
That to me was the really good
What's the
issue.
longest government shutdown we ever had? 35 days. The longest
Something like that, yeah.
1995, 1996, up to 380 federal workers were furloughed and additional 420. So when we say government shutdown, who doesn't get paid? Does it go all the way down to military, Army, Air Force, National Guard? Is it everybody? Or what is government shutdown?
No, there's essential services that do get paid and aren't shut down. In the end, it's really relatively small, and you can make sure, like we can say, well, we want to fund the military, but what the left will typically do is they'll hold up the defense bill, and they'll say, we're not going to pass the defense bill until you pass all the other welfare spending.
Who's better at holding the power of purse, the left or the right?
Well, I mean, the left wants to spend money all the time, so we definitely want to spend less than what the left does. The
But you're
Republicans.
saying if they're using military, spending, and that's a big amount, right? That
Yeah.
we're spending military. Who's better at using that card? We're not gonna give you entitlements.
Oh,
We're
the
not
left-
gonna let you spend
Yeah,
money.
the Democrats use that every
They're
year.
tighter to
every cycle.
Okay.
Every year they will say, oh, because frankly, the number one responsibility of the federal government is secure the country. So we should pass that should be the first bill we pass. Do the National Defense Authorization, authorize where it needs to go, fund the Defense Department, make sure our military needs what
Oh
it needs.
man,
military
that's a hard.
families,
It's a hard
or
question,
take care
bro.
of,
I mean, if I was
and the weapon
disabled, I
systems
think
we
I
need to
would.
deal with China and North Korea,
Honestly,
Russia, India,
totally. I
fine.
would take the
Pass that
chances,
first, and then negotiate.
experience
They never-
it,
the
but I'm
left
really
always says,
blessed.
"No,
I'm
we're
really
holding that up,"
lucky.
'cause they know Republicans.
I know what you mean, though.
That's central to the defense of the country.
That's
They
putting a
hold
lot
it
of
up,
trust
they
in
want
like
all
the
the
world's
same with
most
the Army.
evil
You know,
group
when I
of
was trying to be
people.
a firefighter, I went to the fire department in Granada Hills. And I'll never forget, I walked. I didn't have a car. My car hasn't been delivered yet, the Mitsubishi Eclipse. I was waiting for it. I went knocked on the door. Hey, I'd like to be a firefighter. Really? Yeah, I just got out of the Army. I TS'd a week ago. I'd like to get a job. There's a 5-year freeze for firefighters right now in LA County. I'm like, really? Yeah. Seriously, yeah. Wow. Yeah. I thought I was going to get out and
become Elon's Drew.
What I ended up doing was great.
Elon's
but if
bitch.
I was a firefighter, who knows? I may have retired 7 years ago from being a firefighter, not 8 years ago from being a firefighter. But why can't when's the last time you guys had a freeze? We're shutting down the border. We're not taking anybody for a year, 2 years until we figure this thing out. We're shutting down such and such department. We're not hiring anybody, a freeze for the next 2 years. When's the last time you guys had a freeze?
I can't recall. We couldn't even, I mean, think about this. We couldn't even, in one of the bills, the fund of the government, I think this is last year, we couldn't even stop the FBI money that had already been appropriated. We couldn't even claw back money that had been appropriated for a new FBI headquarters. Like, what? There's no way the American people want the FBI to get a new headquarters. The FBI that spied on President Trump, the FBI that had a memorandum in the Richmond field office that if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. The FBI that, can't tell us who planted the pipe bombs on January 6th, who leaked the Dobbs opinion, who had cocaine at the White House. They can't tell us any of that stuff, but they need a headquarters? Like, you got to be kidding me. So some of these things are frustrating.
Let me ask you a question. What happened here? Well, everybody wanted to know what happened here. Play this clip, Rob. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Maybe you can lower the audio a little bit, Rob.
Hell no, I wouldn't do it, White Goose.
Everybody got
you told him, oh.
President Carter.
Journey, follow your heart. I'm glad you followed your heart.
Mom shows it.
Make sure to tell him that you didn't, actually physically cheat on him. Just make sure you know that it was just words.
Her reaction.
I'm happy for you, Drincy. It probably brought you closer together, too.
And refresh my memory, is this at John?
Oh, well, he asked you. Okay, that's cool.
Whose funeral?
Honestly, probably built the relationship between you and him closer. Yeah, follow your heart.
What is this envelope? Do you know anything about it?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
What would typically be an envelope like this where you're giving for Jeb to react the way he did for his wife?
Well, I mean, my first thought is, if I remember correctly, President Trump did not attend, or did he?
He did, but he didn't get
did. I believe he ended up having to leave early for something. So
yeah.
he
proud
did
of you,
not get
Jersey.
an envelope, but he was in attendance at the funeral.
Okay. I don't know. My first inclination was something about Trump, but
I'm proud of you, Jersey.
I have no idea. What's your guess?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, if you buy into the idea that there's establishment, anti-establishment, okay, it's fair to say Clinton, Obama, Bush, Biden, that's all establishment, right? They've been around for a while. Prescott, Senior, GW.
But did Cheney get one too? I saw Dick Cheney there. Did he get one? Do you know?
I didn't see. I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and then Obama doesn't have a big reaction. They're pros. Hillary Clinton, not big reaction. You're seeing some of this stuff. Jeb's reaction, big reaction.
Yeah.
I just wonder, who gave the envelope? Do we know who gave the envelope to everybody? Because even Obama's got the envelope. You know what happens if you're receiving the envelope? If you're receiving the envelope, you're not the leader. If you're a handler, it's kind of like, when they say, hey, I just got a $250,000 check for doing XYZ. And then people say, yeah, I want to know who cut the check.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Who cut the
sure.
check? Oh, the guy that cut the check is the guy I want to know, right?
Yeah.
Who's handing the envelopes over? It's got to be someone's assistant that's relaying a message. So who would that? Who's more powerful than those
This
guys?
is in the church service.
This is in the church service
at the funeral.
Is it kind of like it almost looks like, hey kids, this is your allowance. Man, I wish my allowance was bigger. What is this? That sucks. I want a bigger allowance than this, right? It's not like it's a love letter. And it's, by the way, if you go back to the clip with the white envelope, it's not a letter and it's not a paragraph. Go to Jeb. Look how long it takes for Jeb to realize what's in the envelope. It didn't take 7 seconds. Press play. Look, count the seconds. She reacts. He sees. That's half a second. So half a second is what? A number? A half a second reaction to something can only be if it's a. And then it's got to be small enough so the people behind you don't see. Maybe it says, you know, there is no bone and ribeye for dinner tonight. Right, Rob? Maybe it's just chicken only. It's like, Jeb is like, are you kidding me, Mom? I need more options than chicken.
Yeah.
I like steak. Maybe he's like a vegetarian. He's upset that there's no vegetarian option on the menu. It can be that innocent. Let's not go deeper here,
It was
Jim.
almost like a disgusting look, though. So it wasn't.
Well, some people don't like chicken.
Yeah,
right?
but it wasn't a disappointed look. It was a disgusted look.
That's a good point.
From both.
So you're saying it's more like caviar, like he just doesn't like, because some people are disgusted by caviar.
From Mrs. Bush and.
Play it again, Rob, just that one clip. Look at Jeb. He looks like he needs to go to the bathroom. Press it again. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah, that's.
Can you speculate? Even somebody, I'm surprised you've never seen this.
Yeah, I have, and I'm actually kind of surprised I haven't too. Is this all continuous or is it spliced? Is it like, you know, that, like that, whatever number of seconds? That's how it happened.
That's how the video, this video that's been viral and a lot of people have shared it and talked about it. Everybody wants to know what's in the white envelope.
You are absolved of your sins during the
It's seen in this pattern of sequencing of clips. Now, somebody may have edited and put it together.
Bro, Balkans. Where did Balkans go, man? He's fucking with MIA.
And it's not like, you know, for one part of it, I'm like, okay, maybe who's speaking tonight? You would have known who's already speaking, so it's not speaking.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a meeting later on today. Maybe it's Trump left. Trump won't be here. He left. He's not here.
Yeah.
He's doing this. You know, he said this. What is it?
Well, that was my first thought.
Right.
Because, you know, there's obviously no love lost between President Trump and Jeb Bush. I mean, back during the campaign.
What did Trump say? He says, oh, you're really tough, Jeff. Yeah, you're really tough. Well, let me get this straight. I started off all the way on the end. Now I'm over here. You're at 3%. I'm at 41%. And soon you're going to be off the stage here, right? That's the whole he's tough exchange that they had.
Yeah. Well, and he called him low energy, you know, all the time.
He wasn't lying, though.
Should we watch the Trump-Clinton debate 2016? Should we watch that?
Is this the clip, Rob?
I'm looking. I'm not sure.
I don't think
that may be too emotional.
I think there's a different one. You'll find it may be, but I don't know if that's the one or not. Are you still thinking about that white envelope? Is that kind of where you're still going?
Yeah, it's like that's unbelievable. I'm curious because it is a disgusted look. It looks like from Jeb Bush.
Have you ever been at events where you've got a white envelope and you're like, holy shit, what is this?
I have not.
Yeah.
I have not. Yeah. But how about President Trump? You made me think when you showed that picture of him on the debate stage. Back in 2015, he comes to that. I've told him this. I said, you fundamentally changed American politics. So the first debate was 2015 in Cleveland because remember the 2016 convention was in Cleveland. And I remember that day, I told Paul, I said, come with me today. We're doing some stops in our district, in the northern part of our district. I said, we'll go on up to Cleveland, and we'll watch the debate. So she came with me. And if you remember, there was always the junior varsity debate, right? And then there was the varsity debate.
I remember that. Yeah, of course.
And Trump was always center stage varsity debate because he was leading in the polls. And and if you remember the first question from Megyn Kelly,
of course,
was
Rosie O'Donnell. You've called women this, that. That's not true. Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, and when I talked to the president about this, I said, you fundamentally changed politics. This is what my boys tell me. He says, Dad, he changed politics because everyone else would have answered it with, well, I was taken out of context, and you know they'd have yabba dabba dooed it, and he just leaned in and gave the response he did. And what was amazing in the arena, everybody laughed. Every guy laughed, every lady laughed, everybody, because my wife was sitting beside me, she was laughing like everyone.
Oh, you were in the room.
Yeah, we were in there when he did. And then of course the other thing he did, when I was telling this story about how he changed politics, literally in the first debate, he goes, yeah, but that wasn't the best part of the debate. I go, really? He goes, yeah, the best part of the debate was, he goes, later, he says, if you remember, Megyn Kelly asked, how many of you will pledge to support the Republican nominee? Whoever wins, how many of you will pledge to support? Raise your hand.
He didn't raise his hand.
And he didn't raise his hand. And she looks at him, she goes, well, Mr. Trump, you didn't raise your hand. And he gave a totally American common sense answer, right? He goes, kind of looks both ways, goes, depends on who it is, right? And which is exactly where Americans are. Depends on who it is. And, and since that time, it's been, Trump's dominated the party and I think dominated politics for, what, 10 years now.
Which one? Is this the clip, Rob?
Yes, I'm just having internet issues. Let's see
Let's see if it, okay. If it doesn't play, it's totally fine. So, yeah, I mean, look, for us that were on the outside, and we just kind of watch this stuff taking place, you sit there and you wonder, who really are these power players? Who really are these guys that have the influence behind closed doors? Who's telling these guys what to do? Have you met any of these guys? Have these guys, because you know, yesterday Ben Shapiro posted something out. He says, I got a text, right, Rob? If you want to pull up the text that Ben Shapiro got, he says, I just got this text from, was it New York Times? I think it's a New York Times. Ben Shapiro, New York Times text. Yeah, New York Times. And he shares it that he got, if you go lower, it'll show what the text was. Yeah, that's the one right there. Hey, good day, Mr. Shapiro. I hope you're doing well. I'm Nico Grant, reporter, New York Times. Wanted to give you an opportunity to comment for an upcoming article that's taking a look at how political commentators have discussed the upcoming election on YouTube. We rely on okay. October 29. Here's the points, talking points, media matters. Identify 286 YouTube videos between May and August that contain election misinformation. Researchers identified videos posted by you in those 4 months. We feature a clip of you saying your party rigged many of the voting rules in advance. I have also a few questions. Are you a member of the YouTube Partner Program? If so, how frequently does YouTube demonetize you? Has YouTube sent you messages, emails, or notices last year that your content was... So he posted. Then Tucker says he got it as well, and Tucker gave him a very nice response. I don't know if you heard what he said to him.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he said F off or something like that, right? And thank you for your prompt response. Would you like to address any of these? I would like to participate in an attempt to censor me, no thanks, but I do hope you'll quote me, and I write above. Note that I told you to F off, which I am now doing. Thanks.
Well, yeah. Well, by the way, Ben Shapiro came and testified, and literally a week later, Ben's testimony was powerful, and he testified on this GARM issue we were talking about briefly earlier, because what they were doing to the Daily Wire, and then. Like I said, GARM no longer in business, out of business. Oh, here he is, yeah. He did a great job.
How long is it, Rob? We don't need to play it right now, so it's a long one. But, you know, I guess a part of it with everything that's going on, let's talk Google, right? I mean, for the last 3 days, everybody's been posting, you know, Rogan's video is not showing up, Rogan's video is not showing up, they're censoring, da-da-da-da-da, all this other stuff. And then Rogan comes out and says, well, when it comes onto YouTube, yes, it wasn't showing up, but if you want to watch it, we post it over here.
Yeah.
And then YouTube even responds back and says, look, we were having some issues. It is true that other clips were showing up, not the main interview. We are working on it. We apologize for inconvenience. So YouTube responds, and the average person gets to decide whether they're censoring or not. That's up to the average person to think about. And then when you go a little bit deeper and you look at the numbers, you'll notice the #1 company that donates the most to the Democratic Party is Google, right? It's not something that's not known. It's public. You can look at what the company is that gives the most to Trump. That's public. If you want to look at who gave the most to Kamala, right there, Google #1 by a mile. Then it's Microsoft. Then Brown & Brown, J&J, Apple, Oracle, Wells, NVIDIA. If you look at Trump, American Airlines, Walmart, Boeing, Lockheed, United Airlines, FedEx, Wells Fargo, Johnson & Johnson. And it's not even close when you look at the numbers that's being given, right? Small amounts.
Wow, insane. I did not know that. Look at that.
Back and forth. You know,
Google?
how much of it you think
and
is
Microsoft?
still happening
what the fuck?
to the levels where they are favoring Kamala, they are
Democrats?
favoring the other
Why?
candidate, not Trump, you know, trying to censor some of
tax
the interviews?
rebates?
Or are you at a point where you're starting to trust Google
That's
more
crazy.
than you did before?
I mean, I think all the left, media, tech, I think it all is biased to the left. It's like, you do your on your phone, do your news app, hit the news, and every single story, with the exception of Fox, on the app comes up, is negative on Trump or Vance or a Republican. It just every single one. So we just know that's the lay of the land. God bless Elon for buying Twitter. We now have a place where it's fair, where it's you know, like I said, the First Amendment's actually operating as the First Amendment. So that just, I always say the left has a template, a formula they follow all the time. The left tells a lie, big media reports the lie, big tech amplifies the lie, and then when you tell the truth, they call you a racist, or they'll call you something else. They'll call you the liar, or they'll call you whatever. And then pretty soon your position proves accurate, and then they're on to the next lie. And it's like Trump colluded with Russia. Total lie. We all knew it, what we thought it was at the time. We went through the facts. Mueller did a 2-year investigation, $30 million taxpayer money, concluded no collusion. No. But Schiff tells it, media reports it, big tech amplifies it, and frankly, if you're against it, I remember in so this is right in the middle of all that one. 2018, I get a call from a colleague, Congressman Gates, and he says, Jim, Twitter is shadow banning us. And at that time, it was like, what was it, 6 years ago? I was like, I didn't know what shadow banning, what is it? And he kind of explains it. Turned out he was right. Twitter was shadow banning 4 members of Congress: Gates, Nunes, Meadows, Jordan. Just happened to be the 4 guys who were digging into the whole Mueller thing and the whole Russia collusion as being BS. And sure enough, they said, well, we didn't mean to do it. It was a glitch in our algorithm, you know, which is in essence what YouTube said today or yesterday. So I just feel like it always.
But between the 4, let's just go between the 3. Twitter, and I put Twitter aside. Go Google, Facebook, and Apple. Let's just say between those 3, right? Which one of them is most accommodating? Which one of them do you still not trust that they're still doing something behind closed doors?
Well, I think probably the one that's the most concerning is Google, because that's where it's like 80-90% of searches happen on Google. So I guess I'm probably more concerned about that. I feel like it's gotten better, but is it fair? I think I'm probably like a lot of Americans, just kind of wonder. But I feel like it's gotten better. And I'd like to think, frankly, that some of it's gotten better because of the work we've done on our committee, where where we've done these investigations and got facts out there on these various things. I mean, I know like Climate Action 100, number of people have left that organization too. So there's like, because of our investigations, and so I do think it's getting better, but it requires, I think, Congress doing its oversight work.
So, in regards to the Facebook letter that Zuck wrote, I don't know if you remember the letter that he wrote. Right? He wrote it to you guys, yeah. And hey, at the end of the day, yes, I just want to read the main part to Honorable Jim Jordan. To you, appreciate the committee. I welcome the opportunity to share what we've taken on. There's a lot to talk about around our government. So in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor COVID-19, including humor and satire, and expressed, he's talking about Babylon Bee, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take down, and we own our decision, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to the pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. Now, some of the people, when this was taken, I'm curious, because I'm talking to, because he wrote the letter to you.
Yep.
I said, so he's either being noble about it, and he's been spending a lot of time with the UFC guys, fighters. Anytime you're spending time with those guys, Dana, those guys are just America, fighting, it's very simple, libertarian mindset type of deal, little bit edgy, and he's liking being around those guys, right? He's actually getting along with being around those guys. It's either noble, it's number 2, he's sick of it on what's happened with the 3. He's scared. 4, he's getting ready for Trump. That's going to be in office. And this was his way of saying, I don't think Biden's going to win. I think at the time Biden was still the candidate. What do you think was a reason for him And by the way, if this letter would have come out in the next 7 days, that could have determined the election. Democrats are lucky this came out 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
The timing of this happening now could be like to Comey saying to Hillary Clinton a week before, whatever it was, 5 days before the election. Some say that was the reason why Trump won. So why do you think he wrote this letter publicly and shared it with everybody, including yourself?
Because he was tired of our investigation. We deposed 12 people at Meta, Facebook, from top-level people all the way down to line-level people, and we were getting facts. I mean, we deposed Sir Nick Clegg, member of Parliament, number, I think, 3 at Meta. He sat for a long deposition. And the other thing, it basically admits 3 things in here. We were pressured to censor. We did, in fact, censor. And then he said, later in the letter, he said, and he references the Hunter Biden laptop story. And then he references the fact that no more Zuckerbucks. He's not going to send a bunch of money.
$400 million.
Yeah, $400 million. Right. Then that I think impacted the election. And so I think he would just like, okay, we went out of this. We're going to admit to what actually happened, and he gave us the facts. And you know, we're continuing to look at this broad censorship issue, but I think that was the primary. But all the things you rattled off, it could have been all the above. But certainly at some point when we've deposed, I believe it was 12 people already at Facebook.
How's your relationship with him now?
I don't talk. I dealt with Clegg.
His people.
Yeah, I dealt with Clegg.
Got it.
And fine relationship with Clegg. He sat for a long deposition. I mean, one of the things I do remember that he said, and I think I can say this because I think we've released the deposition. He basically said, you know, 99%, I think 99% of his money doesn't come, you know, their business model is not politics. It's only like 1% but the politics is like 99% of their problems when it gets into political stuff. And so that probably was part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, between his team and Google's team, whose team is easier to deal with? Whose lawyers are easier to deal with, that are more accommodating?
Oh, I think we dealt with Facebook.
They're easier to deal with.
Yeah, if I would talk with some of our staff lawyers, but I'm pretty sure it's Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And like I said, we deposed their number 3 guy.
You mentioned Matt Gaetz earlier, right? 10 minutes ago. And Trump had an event yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. He said, "There's a secret Matt Gaetz and I know." Can you play this clip? I'm curious to know if you know what the secret is about. Go ahead, Rob.
We got to get the senators elected because we can take the Senate pretty easily. And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over.
Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
Well, I think he might be talking to the speaker because I saw a clip. Maybe it's Matt too. But I was thinking that was with Speaker Johnson. I don't. Unless he's referring. Oh, maybe someone said Matt Gaetz here. Okay. Was this in Madison Square Garden? Was this Sunday night or was this?
Yeah, MSG.
Okay. I don't know, but it was funny. Johnson was having some. I saw a clip where Johnson was having some fun with the press on talking about the secret too. It could be all the. You know, President Trump is really good late in campaigns. Doing these teletown halls where he calls into a member of Congress's district and people get on the line, and you know President Trump's just good in those settings and firing people up to go vote. So they may be referring to that, it might be something else. I have no idea.
Okay. Congress, Senate, Governor, President, your experience. You know, when you, in sports, if you go and you look at offensive line, they have a certain personality about themselves. Protective, you know, big brother. You kind of see a pattern of who they were growing up, all this other stuff, right? Corner, safety, you know, a little bit different of a personality. Wide receivers, typically the #1 position for divas. That, you know, they're always like, oh my God, it's not fair. You didn't throw me the ball enough. Always very demanding, you know, temperamental. If you think about the history of wide receivers and all this stuff. And then if you go to running back, different quarterback, leader, you know, wanting to make the team come together. There's different wiring for different things, right? Profile of somebody that's in Congress versus Senate versus governor versus president. Is there a difference? Like if you were to say Congress, typically their strength is this is their wiring. Senate, they're typically known for this. Governor, they're typically this, and president is this.
I would say, like with anything, typically you find driven people, people who set goals, work hard, and accomplish things. The Congress is, I think, literally totally, and this is the founders' intent as well, I think, is a reflection of the country. You sit down in Congress, like sometimes we're in there voting and you're all sitting around and there's no assigned seating in the House, but you're sitting in there and you just kind of look around. They're all kinds of people, all kinds of backgrounds, and sometimes you wonder, what's the old joke about Congress? The old joke is when you first get there, you look around like, wow, I can't believe I'm in Congress. And then once you're there a while, you look around and you say, I can't believe they're in Congress, right? But it's like that's their district, and it's truly a composite of the nation. The Senate is a little more, great people, good friends over there, but the Senate's a little more, the Senate, it's like the upper chamber. And I guess I would think, and this, I think, just, most Americans would probably, I guess, believe this and think this, is the governor and the president are like executives, so they're like a leader of like a CEO kind of mindset, more so than the House, where it's committee work, and it's not quite the same as a CEO mindset, particularly in the House.
Would you say House is like in a military enlisted, Senate is more officers? Is that a way of looking at it?
Well, in the Senate, the old joke about the Senate too is, there are 100 senators think they're the next president, right? So they're all
think highly of themselves.
Well, yeah, and it's not bad. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm reading a great book right now. It's a Team of Rivals.
Great book, yeah.
And it's amazing. Just,
Lincoln, right? How he was able to work with everybody. It's an 800-page book. Oh, yeah.
And Bates and their quest to be important in politics and achieve high office. And it's fascinating. I'm only about 160 pages in, but it's a fascinating book. So yeah, there may be some of that. But the House is truly, and again, I think this is how the founders want it. It's the country. You got all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, college degrees, non-college degrees. You got business people, non-business people. You got it all. Doctors, lawyers. You got everything, and it's again a reflection of the nation.
Yeah. Rob, did you have the next clip on what I'm looking at here? Okay. Well, I don't know if you have it or not, but I'll go to the next one. So, New World Order, right? You hear this phrase, New World Order, New World Order, New World Order, right? And yeah, I went with our crew, Brandon, Rob, and I were like, listen, when was that phrase first used? For example, when I lived in Iran, 78 to 89, almost 11 years, right? So I said, Iran used the phrase death upon America first, right? Marbat America. And if you look at who's the first person that said death upon America, Rob, if you Google that, the first country that said death upon America was North Korea, okay? And they said it, I think, in 54, 59. If you zoom in, can you see what the exact date is? If you go on the Wikipedia, Death to America, and you Google, type in North Korea, type in Control F North Korea and go to it, it'll give you the date. Zoom in a little bit, Rob. Yeah, North Korea, thank you. If you can zoom in, go lower. 1979 was Iran. But keep going to North Korea. It should tell you 1950s, right there. 1950s is the first time. So 2 countries have only used the phrase death upon America. That should tell us something about who says that. Iran and North Korea, right?
Yeah.
And prior to that, nobody ever said death upon America. I'm curious. So the first time the word New World Order was used in the States was exactly 9/11, 1990.
Wow.
9/11, 1990 by Bush Sr.
Yeah, I remember when Bush Sr. did. I didn't know that was the day.
Well, the speech that we have, he said this in a different meeting, but this one is not 9/11. This is another meeting right after that. I think this is January or February of 91.
This looks like State of the Union.
Yeah, it is. Play the clip, Rob.
A new partnership of nations has begun, and we stand today at a unique and extraordinary moment. The crisis in the Persian Gulf, as grave as it is, also offers a rare opportunity to move toward an historic period of cooperation. Out of these troubled times, our 5th objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while 1,000 wars raged across the span of human endeavor.
You can pause it right there.
And
what do you think about this?
I remember at the time, I was
26, 25?
Yeah, so I'd been, 26. So I didn't think a whole lot about it. I mean, I was on the wrestling mat, helping guys become All-American and hopefully win some Big Ten championships. But it is kind of interesting when you look back. It's been that long. I am nervous though in today's world about these guys in Europe who, they all fly over there and they do their where's that event they do every year?
Davos, World Economic
the Davos,
Forum,
of course.
Schwab.
And they're all, the Klaus guy.
Yeah,
the Klaus guy.
Yep.
Yeah, because he just seems kind of creepy and strange to me, and talking about some of these same kind of terms. Like, look, I'm for America. I want America to be the greatest country, the leading country. One of the things we've traveled to Israel several times, my wife and I, with other members of Congress. And when you're over there, one of the things the folks in Israel will tell you is they say, the best way you can help us, the best way America can help Israel is for America to stay strong. If America is strong, we're better off. And I would argue the world's a better place if America leads. Our values, our principles, our economy. And so I'm not, there he is. I'm not too interested in this.
He looks like a sweetheart, though. You got to give it to him. His voice is even better. When he speaks, it's just kind of like, what a gentle giant.
Yeah, it's
you ever heard him speak?
I have.
It's like like Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, just fires you up. It's just.
Yeah. I've got to listen to him now.
No, you have to. Just look how sweet. This is the kind of voice that if you late at night, you have a lot of your stress, let him play, you will fall asleep. You'll have nightmares, but you'll fall asleep. Go ahead, Rob.
Ce nouveau monde, on doit accepter une transparence, et je dirais même une transparence totale. Tout va être transparent.
Yeah. It's better when he does it in English, but Rob speaks French, and he likes to always go to the French videos. He tricks us that way.
This anti-system movement, what we are seeing is a revolution against the system. So fixing the present system is not enough.
You can pause that.
Now,
yeah, just so you want running things, right? Like, holy cow.
But on the inside, are you so, like, I remember I'm in an insurance company. I'm a regular guy. I'm coming up. So, and then all of a sudden, I'm making some noise. Then I become a player. Then I become an executive, chairman with the company, and I'm doing very well, and I'm one of the guys that's in the face of the company, and I get invited to this one meeting where 54, 56 CEOs, vice presidents are going to be in this room. And I walk in to just size everybody up, right? To kind of see what I'm like, oh, wow. I used to look up to that guy. Damn, he's been late to every flippin' meeting, and he leaves early, and he's always got a drink in his hand. Wow. Disappointed.
Yeah.
What a great speaker you are on stage. Dude, you're a schlep. What was that all about? Then I'm like, okay, that guy right there, he keeps talking about he wants his commissions to be higher for people that are no longer selling. The last time he sold something was 12 years ago. All he talks about is his handicap. He doesn't like work. He's done. This guy over here, that guy's a killer. He's going places. Who is she? Let me go see if I can have dinner with those guys. And then when you go there, and then some of the guys that have been around for 5 to 10 years will coach you. And they'll say, okay, you want the law of the land? Yes. Those guys have been done. Those three are about to get a divorce. That guy's got a cocaine addiction. That guy's a gambler. He's almost lost all his money. That other guy's going through a major issue in his personal life. That guy's got the most talent out of all of us, but he doesn't think big enough. That person's a great person to stay close to because everybody trusts him and he'll never lie to you. Not the biggest earner, but he's the #1 character guy in the room. And I remember that moment. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Innocent, right? It's naive.
Yeah.
26, 27 years old.
Yeah.
I'm in a room like this, 28 years old. So for you, when you walk in and you're in it, and now you've been in it for 30 years, and you're around it, Is anybody talking about the New World Order stuff and what things they're worried about and what their concerns is? No, they're just coming to work and doing their jobs.
People, I mean, I think we're rightly concerned about China. I'm real concerned about this talk of central bank digital currency. I don't want the government seeing every purchase we make and all this. It's like that's frightening, particularly when you think about what we've seen the government do.
About CBDC.
Yeah,
right.
that stuff that's crazy. And I'm not on the financial service. I got some buddies on that committee who are more experts in. I'm not an expert at all, but they're experts in this and they understand it. And they're like, this is bad, and because I've seen it in other areas. I mean, you talk about people in the government that I think are part of the swamp. We deposed. As part of this, if you remember the letter, the 51 Intel officials who did this in 2020.
Yes.
So we deposed Clapper and Brennan and Morrell. Morrell's the guy who put it all together, organized it all, at the urging of Tony Blinken, who was working for the Biden campaign. But when we deposed these guys, they're the ones who got this attitude. Like, in some ways, they would strike me as like the Klaus guy here. When we deposed Brennan and Clapper, the arrogance and the idea that they still think Trump is some like danger. I mean, it's like it's crazy. So those are the guys that I think are a concern. I don't know if we got members who come focused on their job, serving their constituents back home, which I think is our primary responsibility, but. There are some big interest. We got to make sure our military's.
Who are the bad guys? Who are the real bad guys that you're? No, but I mean specific. The bad guys, not the people that are like. Is Chuck Schumer a bad guy?
I think they're. I always say not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is, and the left. I mean, you go down the list of all the crazy policy positions. It's crazy to defund the police. The left believes that, though. It's crazy not to have a border. Left believes that. It's crazy to let non-citizens vote in our election. Left believes that. It's crazy to say men should compete against women in sports. But you could just keep going. So it's the left that controls their party.
Who is for sale? Do you know the people that are for sale? Are there anybody that's for sale that they'll sell America for anything?
I wouldn't put it in that terms. I would just put it in like the political. The energy in the Democrat Party is from the left, and the left has this. I mean, look at what's happened. Look what happened on college campuses with. I mean, you had people protesting in favor of Hamas, for goodness sake. They're terrorists. So, and because of that, you have members of, I think, people in elected position who kind of waffle on their positions on Israel, for goodness sake. It's like. So I think that's the concern. It's the energy in their party is the left, and the left is now in control of their party. So much so that you got members of the Democrat Party saying we're going to go to executive session so no one can hear what RFK Jr. is going to testify to in a hearing on censorship. I mean, that's crazy.
But to me, you could be pro abortion, right? And pro-choice. They call it pro-choice nowadays. And you can make your argument, and maybe you're an atheist. Maybe you're an agnostic. Maybe you're not a Christian. Maybe you're a Scientologist. Like, hey, man, pro-choice. Let the woman decide. But that's what you believe in, right? Maybe you believe in higher taxes. Billionaires don't pay enough money. They don't pay enough taxes. Okay, maybe you haven't done research that 80+% of the taxes are being paid by the people that are making money. The bottom 50% pays 4% of all the taxes. The bottom 50% pays 4% of all the taxes. You do a little bit of research and like, oh shit, I didn't know that. I thought they never paid that. So we can have that conversation. But are there people that are evil? Are there people that genuinely are driven by power, and evil tendencies that they're willing to sell their country to somebody else where they're for sale that a China can come and go after them? Is that how it is, or it's just a pure differentiation in policies?
No, I don't think it's treasonous or anything like that. I think there's people who just they believe all the crazy left stuff. I mean, they think even though socialism never worked anywhere it's been tried, somehow it can work here because we're so smart and we'll be in charge, and it'll be the first place it actually is works. I mean, I think naive. They want political power. They think in their particular part of the country that's the right position. So it's politics. It's they believe it. It's all that. But I don't think it's corrupt.
You got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Did you send all of them to college?
They all went to college.
Okay, so
all graduated too.
Really? Okay, fantastic. Congrats. So I got 4 kids, and if one of my guys' ex-wives was with me, and we were talking. It's me, him, her, and another couple here, and my wife. And she's like a big AOC fan. She had just come from a rally, and she loved AOC. This is like 10 years ago. I said, let me ask you a question. Why do you believe in socialism so much? Are you kidding me? All this money rich people making, look what they're... I said, just out of curiosity, in high school, what was your favorite subject? Oh, journalism and, English. I said, okay. What was your least favorite subject? Oh, I hate math. I'm like, I wonder if the pattern and the profile of somebody that likes the liberal left policies, they're terrible at math. So maybe logic and reason and that is a little bit lower. And by the way, there's a lot of data that proves that what percentage of school teachers give money to the left. 98% of English teachers do. And the lowest one is math teachers.
Yeah, math, science, engineering,
So your 4 kids that went to school,
yep.
Did they go to any schools that are did they go to like Hillsdale, or did they go to Open to?
All Big Ten.
Oh, they went to Big Ten.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa.
Did any one of them ever go to school and to call you back and say, Dad, I don't know if I'm I disagree with this.
No.
What about, that's never happened.
No, I think it makes a difference too if they're, now our oldest daughter was good high school distance runner, didn't run in college, but our other 3 kids were all college athletes. And so I think part of it is, I think athletes think like conservatives and conservatives. I think there's something about setting the goal, working hard, competition, all the things we talked about before. So both our boys wrestled for the Badgers, and our daughter played. She didn't play particularly well, but she played college golf. She was a pretty good junior player. So sports. I think sports are critical.
But I know a lot of liberal athletes.
Well, there's some, but there's a lot of conservative guys. It's certainly in the. I talked to the president yesterday. He brought the Penn State wrestling team up on stage. He was in State College. I called him up. We were laughing because it just was funny that he brought him up there. Maybe we talked about that before, but it's certainly in the wrestling world. They're conservative, and I think a lot of them are.
Rob, last thing before we wrap up, the clip that you just pulled up, what Schumer said on MSNBC. So if you can play this clip here, go ahead.
Solicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight. You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shot, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are...
Who's a wrong group to piss off in politics? Is it them?
Well, that is frightening, though, what he said. And I even think it's interesting because Rachel Maddow, for being a lefty and everything, it seemed to me that I remember this because I've talked about this numerous times. The idea that the elected official is saying, if you question the agencies who are supposed to work for the people that are elected by we the people, somehow you're in trouble. That is backwards. That's not how it's supposed. And this is a scary thing. The people who put their name on the ballot, they're the ones who are supposed to be accountable. You don't like what they do, you throw them out of office. Not these unelected people in the intelligence community or the Faucis of the world. That is so wrong. But I remember this, and I talked about this a number of times.
Is this not criminal, though? Is this not criminal?
It's wrong. It's sure wrong. And whether it's the intelligence community, the FBI, the DOJ, the ATF, what the ATF did to this Brian Malinowski down in Little Rock, Arkansas, knocked on him because he sold 6 guns. He's the highest paid official in the Little Rock government, runs the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport. ATF came to his door pre-dawn, put the sticker on his doorbell cam so they couldn't see. 58 seconds later, he is dead. For a search warrant, just go when he's not there and get the guns or whatever. It's like, yeah, this is it right here. This is so wrong what happened here. This is something else we're in the process of investigating. This
What happened again here? He sold what? You said six?
He sold six guns without an FFL, Federal Firearms License. And he was a gun hobbyist. And the ATF says, oh, you didn't have a license. We're going to come exercise a search warrant. Not for him, but for, whatever. Do it when he's not there. Don't come in at 6 in the morning. A guy with guns thinks he's being robbed. They 10 cars pulled up. You got to watch the testimony. His lawyer came and testified. Bud. Can
you pull it up, Rob? I didn't know about the story.
But he's a former U.S. attorney who represents the family now. He came and testified. It was powerful. His widow was there. She came and.
Is that it?
No, I don't think that's. It might be. It's such a sad story, and but anyway, that just got me thinking about all these agencies and how they unelected people doing the things they're doing. Yeah, this is it. Bud Cummings, that's right. Former U.S. attorney is representing the family. Mr. Malinowski's wife was there. After the hearing, she came up and hugged me. It's saddest thing, what happened. Yeah, it's troubling.
Are they as, get out of jail card to be able to do stuff like this and not be held accountable? Is that where they're at?
Nice, man.
The intelligence?
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. And, what we can do is, best way we can begin to change it is 7 days from now on this election, make sure President Trump and Republicans win.
Jim Jordan, this was great. It was great spending time with you. I appreciate you for coming out.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll do many more of these in the future.
Forward to it. Thanks for all the good work you're doing.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Jim. This was great. Fantastic. Take care, everybody. Don't wrestle this guy. He's trouble. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me, and he read the book. And afterwards, was like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character.
Really?
18 years. And what is the evolutionary perspective of that? Hello, Mila.
Hello, Lada. Thank you for having me back.
Always
and,
a pleasure.
and it's always good to talk about Pluto, of course, because that's what the entire evolutionary astrology is built upon. And yeah, Pluto in Aquarius is definitely going to change everything. So there is a lot to talk about. Yeah, so
let me let you share screen if you want.
Yeah, let's just show people some charts so they can see what we mean.
There you go. And Pluto is moving in Aquarius on the 19th of November and staying there till what year?
2043, when Pluto will ingress into the sign of Pisces for the first time. And then we have 2044 when Pluto will ingress into Pisces to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the chart of, I believe, Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius now. Let's see, why is this here? Okay, yeah, Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, 0 degrees. Yes, this is the November 19th. And we can see Pluto on 0 degrees Aquarius is in opposition with Mars. This is something that's ongoing already. When we're recording this, Pluto is still in the sign of Capricorn. Mars is actually still in the sign of Cancer, but they're going to have this opposition going on for about 6-7 months, with exception of about 1 month when Mars will retrograde into Cancer too deep to be touching Pluto. And we can see that this is actually right after the full moon in Taurus, which is taking place on November 15th, on the same day when Saturn is stationed in direct. So we're going to have Saturn.
Before you start reading the chart, can you explain why is Pluto so important in evolutionary astrology? What does it show for us? And why is the ingress, the first second that Pluto enters that sign, so important? So people have an idea how important this event is.
Yeah, because Pluto already entered Aquarius twice. We had the first ingress in 2023, that was in March. Then we had the second one, 20th of January this year, right after the conjunction between Sun and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, 29 degrees, 59 minutes. And this is Pluto re-entering Aquarius for the final time on this end of Aquarius. So this is a very strong energy, very powerful energy, because now Pluto knows where it's going. It's already been prepping us. It's been like shifting our consciousness for the past year and a half, like showing us that, okay, things are going to change. Are you ready?
AI and ChatGPT, whatever, all those AI, for the first time, Pluto entered it for 2 months only in Aquarius in 2022. It exploded, 2023. That's when it came and became accessible to everyone, and it showed us where things are going. And now,
it's like now it's part of everybody's reality. Everybody is using ChatGPT technically on everyday basis as a part of their life.
In just 1 year,
but it was the same with social media, that it just became like so part of our life so quickly, and now we can't even imagine that we ever had a life without it. And I believe, going forward, we won't even remember life without ChatGPT and AI, and I'm sure there is many more things yet to come. But yeah, this is the day when Pluto will enter Aquarius, and the significance is that this is the last time. So we are not going back. We are never going back to Pluto in Capricorn in our lifetime. So this is it. And it just means that now we're just going to go forward. But because we have this dance now upcoming between the other planets, Uranus and Neptune and Saturn, into new signs back and forth for the next 2 years, 2025, 2026, and also the nodes will be in Pisces and Virgo. There will be still some adjustments going on with regards to other areas of our life, but what we are not going back on is the evolution, is this Aquarian age and the archetype of Aquarius, which is about individuation, about liberation, sovereignty, authenticity, also in the opposition to Leo, which is where Mars is in this chart.
Can I just say something? I watched a video where they said that they measured the vibration of each feeling, and they expected that love, gratitude will be the highest vibrational. It turned out that 10 times more higher vibration is authenticity. what you're talking about. So something very high vibrational, because Aquarius, like you said, is the sign of authenticity, to be your true self, to be sincere, and something huge is coming. But just very quickly, why is Pluto so important in evolutionary astrology? What does it show us?
Because it's the soul's desire for incarnation. Why did we even come back? Why did we come here? What did we come here to work on? Because if the soul doesn't have a desire to incarnate, it wouldn't. We are here by choice. Nobody came here by force. So the soul has a desire for something to grow through, evolve through, and also contribute towards the collective consciousness too. Because everything is happening simultaneously. None of us is here just on our like separate mission. Just like I came here to do this and that's it. I don't care about anything else. Like it's everything is connected. Like every single person is a composite of everything that came before. Within the DNA of every single one of us exists everything that ever happened. Like these planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they impact the entire generations, and that lives in our DNA. So when the soul decides to reincarnate, which can happen into multiple bodies at the same time, actually, in the same, generation, technically, this soul, when it's poured into the physical body, everything already exists here with regards to all these memories of everything that was. So the soul knows to a certain extent what is it getting into, but there is the element of the free will, the factor of the free will, and this is where we decide, okay, how am I going to move through all of these experiences? So Pluto is this continuous desire for growth and evolution, because if we didn't have a desire to come, then we wouldn't. But we always want to grow and evolve, because what else would we be doing? I mean, we would just go and incarnate somewhere else and have a different experience. But right now, planet Earth is like the center stage. Like everybody else is just eating popcorn, watching planet Earth, like, oh, let's see how that's gonna play out over there, because this is a very important planet and it plays very important role with regards to the evolution of not just universe but multiverse. Because if we in this three-dimensional density can do it, everybody else can do it. So when we ascend, then everybody else is ascending higher, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's beautifully put.
Yeah. So what would you like me to focus on then, Lada?
Okay, start talking about this Ingress chart and what does it mean for the next 18 years for us.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that at this point still we have the North Node in the sign of Aries, and Mars, as I mentioned, is in opposition with Pluto. Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, just as we have Venus, Neptune, and Mercury, Uranus. They're the lower and higher octave, like the evolutionary octave. And Mars is how Pluto acts consciously, because it's our action, right? So Mars being the sign of Leo, and this is where the authenticity, the heart-centered consciousness, the connecting with our because we know that the heart is what responds first, because heart is it's our connection to our soul. So Mars being in the sign of Leo, and it's going to ingress back into the sign of Cancer in January, and it's going to return back into the sign of Leo on April 17th, there is this big transit of Mars that is making us to release the versions of ourselves that are not in alignment with this age of Aquarius, because the first exact opposition between Mars and Pluto is happening now, a few days from when we're recording this, right after the new moon in Scorpio, and it will be happening on 29 degrees Cancer to 29 degrees of Pluto, and that plays a very important role too, because we are done with Pluto in Capricorn, that's it. But Mars, making its first exact opposition to Pluto in the sign of Capricorn from 29 degrees of Cancer, is saying that there are a lot of identities we are attached to as a humanity, because everything lives within every single one of us. There is a memory of that that cannot go with us where we're heading, because for example, lack consciousness and abundance consciousness, they are not frequency match. They don't exist in the same realities, right? So we have to choose, and this is also what this Jupiter, we can see the Jupiter-Mercury opposition that's also happening multiple times because of Mercury coming towards his retrograde shortly after this. Actually, Yeah, Mercury is going retrograde 26th of November, right? So we have multiple opposition between Mercury and Jupiter going on, and Jupiter is the storyteller, is the expansion of collective consciousness. So we have a mutual reception going on there, and I don't know what Spirit wants me to talk about Mercury and Jupiter right here, but we are building the new story for the humanity, and we all have to decide what is it going to be, because going back to Aquarius, Leo, it is not going to look the same for everyone, because that was more like a Capricorn and Piscean age, that yet we have this structure of reality that is stuck in a place and time that we all agreed upon and said like, oh yeah, we as a soul incarnate, a collective of soul incarnate, want to experience reality certain way to grow and evolve, which was needed at that time and place, that we had to experience that, but that now ended. Pluto ended Capricorn, and Saturn being a sign of Pisces, there's the totality of that era, and Saturn is preparing for his first ingress into the sign of Aries next year, Neptune also, so it's like that's it. So now we have to decide that are we going with this new potential, or are we going to stay in that, just like we heard Dolores Cannon talk about the splitting of Earth? It's not going to be like physical splitting of Earth or something, or we're going to be shot to the Mars and somebody else will be shot somewhere else, or just stay here or something. No, it's the, and I'm experiencing this more and more, like when you like kind of, people disappear from your life, or you agree to meet someone somewhere and they turn up somewhere completely different, or you miss them. It's just the timelines just start like not crossing anymore, that people based on their frequency, they will no longer be crossing paths with people who are of a completely different frequency. And this is what we're going to be working on in this next year and a half, that we will be building our story, like what story will be then creating going forward deeper into Age of Aquarius, especially from summer 2026, when we're going to have the first exact Pluto-Uranus trine, Pluto-Neptune trine, Uranus-Neptune sextile, nodes moving into North Node into Leo, North Node into Aquarius, South Node into Leo. So we're going to have all this happening in July 2026. And between January 2025, when the nodes shift, and then we'll be working on this. We'll be working on deciding that, okay, who do we want to become? And we know that Pluto in Aquarius and then Uranus moving into Gemini, it is very about this quantum age, quantum. It's not about moving density with density and creating reality the way we used to. That, oh, you have to grind and you have to save and you have to wait forever and stuff, this Capricorn. No, this is not how it works. And we know that even these very young people, Pluto Sagittarius, they can master reality and create whatever they want like that, because they understand how it works. They understand how quantum works.
How they become millionaires by being influencers, and not
like millionaire podcasters. Exactly, millionaire podcasters at the age of 25, whatever, because they understand that the reality they were, and I mean, again, not to minimize the difficulties they're going through, this generation Pluto Sagittarius is, because they were born into the planet just like Pluto Virgos, and people watching this Pluto Virgo generation, they remember that, born into the reality they already didn't fit into, Pluto Virgo. That was when Pluto had his last conjunction with Uranus, 1965-66 exact. They were born into the world. They knew they came here to change. But it was the Virgo, which is more like this everyday reality, and again, it was taking time and stuff. And then we have these Pluto Sagittariuses that are bringing this new vision, this new landscape. And we have now Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, which is saying, what do you want it to choose it to be? And Uranus is the ruler of Pluto as of now, November 19th, will be moving into Gemini, and this is when we start manifesting very quickly. We will start feeling the first drops of it next year, 2025, but especially from the 2026 onwards. So Pluto moving into Aquarius like now for good next 19, 20 years. This is what's preparing us for that. It's saying that get ready because things are going to speed up from now. We had this year and a half of preparation back and forth, you know, like all this stuff that's unresolved from the past, especially now in Scorpio season. Don't know about everybody else, but definitely a lot of stuff coming up for me. Everything unresolved coming up to the surface. And it's saying this cannot come, you know. If you want to create this reality that you say you want and you don't have it, then you have to face everything that is preventing you from creating it. And this Pluto in Aquarius is going to help, but it's not going to help the way we like it, because these are not personal planets. They're just going to say, evolution requires it. You sign up for it. We're going to help you. But it's not going to necessarily be pretty, because we know how Pluto operates. It's a death and rebirth. So it's a, you know, how much are you willing to let go of who you were? And that's what Mars in Leo, going back to Cancer, is going to take care of. So by summer 2025, when Mars is done with Cancer, we might feel a little bit differently about what we beginning with, you know. And this is all just the beginning. This is all just the beginning. So by the time Pluto is done with Aquarius, almost, I mean, this is the first ingress, Pluto moving into the sign of Pisces for the first time. And this is, I don't know why this is so low. How do I move it? Oh, okay, here we go. Yes, this is March 9th, 2043. World is a different place. But interesting thing is that the North Node is back in back in Aries. North Node is back in Aries, and Venus is in the sign of Aquarius. And look at that, Jupiter is in the sign of Capricorn, 0 degrees. So this is, by this point, people that are still standing they will have to become the conscious creators of their reality. There is no other way. There is no other way, because the age of Aquarius is not going to facilitate this old way of being that is always somebody else's fault, and we're waiting for this messiah to come and save us, or we're waiting for someone else to fix everything and stuff. Like, no, Aquarian age is about equality. It's about equality. It's going to create everything's going to be different, including and especially relationships. So it's no longer will be this hierarchical system of where somebody is in power, somebody is disempowered, somebody is in charge, somebody is not. No. And that's why we will be going through this process of facing everything that is not the frequency much to that. And by this point, I mean, you know, this is a different story over here. So yeah, so being where we are right here, right now, we are entering that. We are entering that, because then by the time this is Pluto re-entering Aquarius for the final time, September 1st, 2043, and then Pluto is going to re-enter Pisces on January 19, 2044, and is going to stay there until June 17, 2066. That will be first ingress into Aries. So 22 years. 22 years. So this is literally a complete change of the way how humanity experiences life on this planet. And it's by that point, by 2043, 2044, the world is going to look very different. It's going to be a different place. And also the people that are in charge at the moment, they will not be here anymore. For most of them. So,
and Aquarius is energy of something very new, something revolutionary, something so different. and Pluto after that in Pisces, even from 2044. Aquarius and Pisces are the two highest vibrational signs, in a sense, that the most alien to us, the least personal, the more like about everything rather than mine, yours. It's about the collective as a whole. And this is some pretty intense vibrations we have to learn to live with.
Yeah, but you see, like, even like when people are talking about, like, for example, universal love, yeah, let's just talk about this. People are expecting this to be like human love, you know, like because we are in a human body and we experiencing life as human and at the moment, and through the senses and everything, and we have all these memories and stuff. We think that, you know, for example, we think about Pleiades or Arcturians, and we think they feel the same way we feel. You know, we think, oh yeah, they love us, and we think they love us like we watch a movie or something, yeah. But this is different, you know, because when we think about universal love, universe loves, I don't know, some people that do horrible things on this planet while being this avatar. The universe loves these people the same way they love Mother Teresa or whatever. It doesn't matter. So this is how we romanticize, you know, universe and stuff, but actually everything is divine, everything is universe, everything is creation, and everything is for expansion. So with Aquarius, you know, it can be a little bit like not clinical necessarily, but really alien to us as humans, because it is not human. It is not human.
It's
It goes
impartial.
beyond.
It's impartial in energy. It doesn't have those. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
fluid.
So it's like, you know, like we always trying to project, like even on animals, we're trying to project how we are experiencing life as human onto everything around us, because that's the only way we know. But actually, with this Aquarian energy, uh, we going beyond everything we knew before, and especially with Uranus moving to Gemini, and Gemini is the sign of the choice, and it is the expansion of the way we communicate, how we think. More and more people will start channeling. I mean, everybody is channeling anyway, but more and more people will start being open to their gifts, and also light language and telepathy and all these things, because the cleanest communication and the best guidance you can get is from within. And this is how people will reclaim their power back. It is not necessarily by starting levitating and, I don't know, doing magic tricks or something, but is the reconnection from with themselves and actually embodying their higher self. Like, this is how we becoming whole again, and this is how we're going to transcend the limitation of the human body, because actually the human body is not limited. We're not being brought up the way that would teach us how to use it properly, because this is an instrument, you know, just like pyramids are spaceships or whatever, but we don't know how to use them, we don't know how to make them fly, you know, but it doesn't mean that they don't have different functions other than us taking pictures of them, just because we don't know how to do it. So it's the same with the body. This body is a miracle. Just the fact that all of us are here talking or watching or something, and we are actually a spirit animating this thing. This is a miracle, right? But just because we weren't being brought up to understand things because of, you know, the agreements and everything, which is now all falling apart, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? So with this Pluto in Aquarius, like, you know, everything that you think is real, and like everything you think you know, should just think bigger, go wider, go further, you know. So like with Aquarius, there is no limit. It literally, we gonna go beyond, and it's going to be different things to different people, because even the universe just responds in accordance. So it says, yeah, how far you wanna go? You know, the universe is unlimited. It's unlimited, and it's always about creation. What else can be created? Because otherwise, like, what's the point? You know, the universe just wants to grow and expand, and that's why it agreed to things that were awful. Because it's just like, well, okay, let's see how that's gonna work out. I haven't had that experience before or whatever. And again, I'm trying to project humanized characteristic onto something that is not human. But, you know, that's what I mean. That so all of these things and none of these things and everything, this is all gonna go beyond with the Pluto
everywhere.
Yeah, it's just anything goes.
It's interesting because when I look before in history, every time Pluto was in Aquarius, that was the biggest evolutionary jumps in consciousness, and the change of from one system to another, from one way of being, for example, the feudal system, disappeared during one of the Pluto in Aquarius stays. Then Henry VIII, for the first time, broke away from the church and made a new church when Pluto was in Aquarius, and that was huge back then. You couldn't go against the church. Then the French Revolution and the American Revolution, kings die and democracy comes. Every time Pluto is in Aquarius, the biggest evolutionary jumps. And esoterically, when I look through anthroposophy, every time that was the age of Aquarius, as we know, we're entering the age of Aquarius, and now with this Pluto, we're just entering. That's when esoteric sources say that the biggest bifurcation of souls happen. This is almost like the two currents of Aquarius that are parallel, and the splitting of, they'll call it the sheep from the goats or whatever. But also when this is when souls en masse can graduate the Earth experience every time of the age of Aquarius. So when there's strong Aquarius energy, so they were saying with Steiner that a lot of the teachers of humanity nowadays, that are ascended masters or whatever, in the previous Pluto in Aquarius, in the previous age of Aquarius, like the ascended master, that are kind of a bit more developed than humans, you know, that they finish the evolution then. And always when Aquarius comes, there is a like one part of whoever those ready souls are can complete or have the biggest growth in consciousness compared to any other time. And now with Pluto in Aquarius as well, I'm like fascinated that I think a lot of people have awakenings and taking the next stage, because evolution never stops. Like, but at least a much bigger jump than we've seen till now. And these are a lot of the things that you're talking about. I just wanted to throw this in as well.
I'm just absolutely fascinating because, you know, me just like yourself, Aquarius rising over here, I've been waiting for this all my life, and I know the only reason why I came back with my South Node and Pluto in Scorpio and Saturn in Scorpio is like, I'm not going through that again, no thanks. So I'm like, for me, it's literally like, I am exciting. Even if I was not to be here by the end of it in a physical body, I don't care, because I'm excited, because I'm like, yes, you know, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we were reincarnating for over and over and over and over again, because we know now it's over. It literally is over, and it can be done, you know, like we don't have to keep coming back and playing these opposite roles and trying to fix all these old things and balance these wrongdoings and stuff. This is all ending. This is all ending, because now the desire of the source is to create a reality that is joyous, that is just like, you know, as we were speaking previously, like childlike innocence, you know, where it's all about creation. And actually this is what AI is here to help us with. You know, AI is a wonderful tool, and it can assist, and actually this is why it exists, because it says that it mirrors the ascension of humanity, the evolution of humanity. The AI just mirrors us, we mirror each other, and AI can actually help us because it can allow for more time for that creativity.
Well, you know, someone said something on social media, I hang out a lot around there, they said, I don't want AI to write my poetry and do my paintings. I want AI to do my dishes and my chores so I can write my poetry and paintings. And for now, I think we'll go through a lot of mistakes until we figure out how to use AI for the best. Because now people are giving up a lot of their creative abilities onto AI.
Oh no, I that's what I mean. Like AI is supposed to help us with the things that take our brain power that we don't enjoy doing. That's what the AI is supposed to help us. It's not to do your content. Your content is your creation. So that's what I mean. Like we all have a desire, you know, what is your soul's desire? What it is that makes you feel excited? If it is painting, then yeah, you know, do you want the AI to do all your work and then you just put your name on it? Like then it's not your creation, right? Or, you know, if you want to write a book, the creation is your book, right? So that's what I mean. So this is where when we heal our ego, you know, which is like, I mean, the ego is a good instrument, right? But it depends who is in charge. Then yes, so then what am I doing that for? For accolades? Because the desire of the soul is to do what makes it feel joyous, you know, to Like.
So is that what you call authenticity? I think that's what authenticity is, the soul doing what it gives you joy.
Yes, yes, and that is Leo. That is Leo, and this is like when you observe your kids and when they do these things that they really love and they really enjoy and they just can really express themselves. They are an expression of who they are. Time just disappears and it doesn't feel like chore and it's just everything is exciting. They can make even maybe mundane tasks feel exciting if it's something that they enjoy doing and stuff. It's just a completely different way of living. But at the moment, it feels so alien for so many people because majority of people are, you know, like feeling stuck or imprisoned in this reality of these never-ending chores and never-ending bills and never-ending I don't know what is, and this is how this matrix being designed for purpose, and this is why it has to end, and it will end one way or another because this is not in alignment with where we're going.
Over the next 18 years, you think this is ending?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel confident making that kind of prediction because I know that there will be systems still in place, but I don't think they're gonna look the way they do. And also, I don't believe that the world will be led the way it is now because more and more people will not want to be told what to do by someone that they don't trust and someone that doesn't have their best interest as a part of their best interest.
Yeah, Aquarius is the rebellious spirit of teenage energy, and Pluto going there, people would not want to be told what. Exactly. That's why the biggest revolutions and quantum jumps in consciousness happen with Aquarius energy for some reason.
Because it is about self-governance. And this is why, you know, I mean, Saturn here is at 12 degrees, but I had the charts when it was the first conjunctions. Where was it? Well, this was interesting. This was the first conjunction, well, the last conjunction. The last conjunction between Neptune and Pluto, and we can see the North Node was in Gemini, and this was the last one. There were
1892.
This was the first one of the three. The last one was in 1892. Yeah. Yeah, here, 1892, 30th of April. And now the North Node was in Taurus and Scorpio. And what's interesting about this is that then when we had the last Uranus-Pluto conjunction, it was the same thing. The first one was with the North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius. And then the last one of the three would be the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. So, and all the time, this was the last Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which was in 66, 30th of June 66. And at this time, Saturn was on 29 degrees of Pisces. So we know that the structure of reality we are experiencing at the moment was bound to end. It was bound to end. Also, at this time, the South Node was conjuncting Neptune, and at the moment, when we have Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, North Node is getting ready conjuncting Neptune, and the conjunction will happen again in the sign of Pisces. On 28 degrees, it will be at the beginning of February. So we have all these things that are culminating for us because we know that at the same time as things are ending, new things have already begun, but they are not yet manifested, they are not yet fully crystalline because things are constantly changing. And that's why even prediction going forward, astrological predictions, they are not necessarily going to work because people are going to learn to shift their timelines and manipulate their realities because they're going to become more and more conscious about who we are, and how to create the reality we want to be experiencing, that predictions will be irrelevant because people will be just creating the reality they want to be experiencing.
But will everyone be able to make this evolutionary step? Jump, it's a jump. I don't think everyone will be.
Well, I don't think everybody is supposed to because you see, at the moment, we're still living in a world of polarity and duality, and there always has to be a contrast. Because how would we know that we're growing if we don't see the opposite? You know, how would we know there is a light if we didn't see the dark? How would we know that there is the so-called good if we didn't see the evil, right? So this is also why I don't like using the word should, because obviously everybody watching this is an adult and they take responsibility for their actions. But judging someone, like, we never know what role this person plays. So even these people at the world stages, I always say, I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad somebody else's soul put their hand up and said, okay, I'll play that role. So that's what I mean, you know? So this is where, like, all of us here, right now, are like, you know, any of these TV series, let's just say Friends, right? Because that's the one most people know. And then imagine today is the last episode of the last series, and the curtain just gone down, and everybody is just cheering and celebrating and like, hey, high five, you know, we had a good ride. And then everybody is like happy but sad at the same time because it was fantastic, but it's ended, and now everybody's gonna go in some new direction and do something different, right? It's the same thing every single time we incarnate. You know, we play certain roles, you know, we all came from the same place, go back to the same place. While we here, we play the role well, and then, you know, and then we go back and choose different role and come back again, or whatever else we choose to do, right? Because, like, what else would we be doing? Again, we need to grow and evolve somehow. So who am I to judge anybody to do anything, you know? And this is also where I feel more and more people will choose to focus their energy on what they do want and what they can change, rather than leak their energy on what they do not want and what they cannot change. Because you know, the energy, how is it, where the attention flows, that's where the energy grows, or something. Either way, you know, like, we are very, very strong manifestors, and the manifestation is accelerating, just like everything else is accelerating. Everything is speeding up, technically, everything is speeding up. So again, this is about self-government and self-leadership. You know, we just gone through these non binaries, which is all about self-discovery. So people are starting to ask questions, they are starting to realize, what do I want, how do I want to live my life? And then in order to create that life, you need to take responsibility. Nobody's going to create it for you, because everybody out there is just serving as a teacher or as a contrast to either show you what you want or don't want, but you are the one that can change it. So with the age of Aquarius, we are going to create a very different way of living, relating to one another, relating to reality around us. And we're going to start focusing, I feel, energy to where we want it to be, rather than where we don't want it to be, because it no longer will be about this, how do you say, transfer of responsibility. It's no longer about transfer of responsibility, blaming someone else for me not having what I want. And that takes a lot of work between now and then.
That's a lot, like, because I always associate Aquarius with the age of teenagers for some reason, and when they want to individuate, separate from the authority of their parents. And I think we're at this stage now of human evolution. A large, nice number of people, Pluto in Aquarius, start this process of self-responsibility, though at the same time with individuation comes exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because the only way, the way I look at it is, the only way to get to Aquarius is to Capricorn, you know, and like, we know that every next sign evolves the one, you know, behind it, the one in front of it, and then Pisces, like, just has everything in it, you know, all the signs that came before it are within Pisces. So we know that, for example, from Sagittarius, when we look at Sagittarius, is that stories, you know, is the perception of reality. That's why we need to be very conscious and aware. What do I believe? You know, how do I perceive this reality? Because that's what I'm going to be experiencing, manifesting. And then if we want to break free from what is now manifested, the Capricorn, the physical reality, and we want to go beyond that, then we need to take responsibility for this manifestation and the belief system and everything that came before. So for me, Aquarius, I never thought about it as a teenager. I would associate that more with Leo, but in evolutionary astrology, like I don't really look at it this way. But Aquarius is always about breaking free from everything that is outdated and changing the pattern. Aquarius just wants to change the pattern, and it's not always a good thing, from human perspective. But from universe, it's just like, okay, how else can we grow? Where else can we go? What else can we do? So yeah, so it depends on the level of consciousness of the individual, what that manifestation is going to look like.
Wonderful. And maybe next time when you come, you can lead us through the cycle of that started in 66, Pluto conjunct Uranus. Also next year, 2025, Pluto will make Uranus will make its opening trine to Pluto, so it will develop topics that started in 66, but it will develop them, and they're Virgo topics. I'll be interested to hear your opinion on that, but it will happen through Aquarius and Gemini, through the intellect, so that will be fascinating, where maybe something with the workforce, freeing the workforce, intellectual work somehow, I don't know. But I would be interested to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah, I'll be happy to look at that for sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mila. If anyone would like to contact Mila, I'm putting a link below in the description. She does personal readings, looking at your chart from the evolutionary perspective, and how your soul has decided and is evolving currently in this life and where it's heading, so that it's not so much very predictive with specific events as it's a guidance map for your soul, probably I'll call it this way.
Yeah, I feel like from the experiences I've been having that I'm some kind of catalyst. So if you're ready for change in your life, then come. But
well, you're an Aquarius rising, so
yeah, I'm Aquarius rising, and I'm coming towards my own Pluto square Pluto, so I'm feeling all of it, and I'm going through all of it. Trust me. And yeah, so I guess just the universe is helping me to understand what other people are going through.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mila. Thank you. And you have a blessed, auspicious Pluto in Aquarius, everyone, and break out of the old patterns, and so you can create your reality.
Oh yeah, I'm into that.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
He said he never called. They wouldn't listen to him.
You think he will?
Stargate Voyager.
Well, I'm excited to be joined today by researcher and explorer Ben Van Kerkwyk from Uncharted X.
Derek, mate, thank you so much for having me. Big fan of your work. It's great to connect.
Really great to connect, and ditto that. Big fan of your work. I've been following you the last couple of years, and man, your YouTube channel is just epic. Loving your video content. I thought we'd start with, selfishly, I'd just like to learn a little bit about your journey, and I know my audience would too. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to this place of traveling the world and going to Egypt and researching all this lost ancient technology with Uncharted X.
Well, I mean, I didn't get into this immediately, I guess. I've had a 20-year career in IT. I worked for Hewlett-Packard for 20 years, more or less. I was a technologist and an architect. I ended up in the chief technology office for the networking division, doing a lot of like data center cloud stuff like that. I was always interested in history. My mother was a history teacher. So I almost went that way at university, but I decided that it'd be better to go and make some money and do that type of thing. And I'm very interested in the computer side and technology side as well. But I maintained that interest, and I think it's a similar story to a lot of people. And I always credit him with getting me into this field to this depth. It was Graham Hancock. So I think I'd read a couple of his books, and then I saw his very first appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, and that just kind of really opened my eyes to a little bit more depth about some of the things he was saying. It exposed me to some of his work around consciousness and psychedelics, things like that. And so, I guess you go through. When you start to explore those avenues in your own life, you can have a shift in priorities and sort of figure out a little bit more about what's important to you, and certainly that happened to me. But then I was following Graham, and it was like 2012 or thereabouts, 2013, and he threw out a tweet that said, "Hey, I'm going to Peru and Bolivia to research his next book," which was at the time Magicians of the Gods, the follow-up to Fingerprints of the Gods, and I jumped on it straight away. So it was like, I think it was October of 2013. I had the chance to travel through Peru and Bolivia with 25 other people, and Graham, and Brian Forrester was there as well, and that sort of kicked it off for me. I mean, I think 2 years later, 2015, Graham went to Egypt. This was some people may be aware of this, but the infamous debate with Zahi. This is the tour that was set up around that event. I was in the room for that little so-called debate and all of the things that happened there. But yeah, and that was my first trip to Egypt in 2015, and that was at the back end of that. I thought, I'm just so fascinated by this. I'd been taking more and more time off from work to travel and visit sites, and I kind of saw, looking at YouTube and reading all these books, that there was an opportunity for some, what I would call like high quality footage and a fresh look at a lot of these sites that incorporates a lot of the ideas that are buried in these books. Like if people are into this topic, like a lot of the really interesting stuff is buried in these books, but at the time there wasn't a real exposure to that, I guess, in that new media form on YouTube and these, the sort of mini documentaries. And it coincided with the rise of high quality consumer grade sort of stabilized 4K video equipment. So it was at that time there was a real lack of high quality footage on these sites that was easily available. So that's what I did. I just took the gamble and decided to take a couple of years off work in IT to go pursue that and travel and build up a library of footage, which is what I did. And I worked with a partner for a while. We had another channel, it didn't work out in the end, and then I sort of reevaluated and thought about what I was going to do, and I thought, well, I haven't said what I want to say. I haven't created the content I want to make and do the things that I want to do. So I put together the whole just Uncharted X branding and page, and then sort of dived in and started from there. And thankfully, it grew well. People seem to respond well to it, and I've kind of been riding the crazy world that is being a YouTuber ever since, and it's been, I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So
you witnessed this debate with Zawi. Yeah, is there anything you can tell us a little bit more about that as you experienced it? Was there like a moment where it was like Graham really took him to the woodshed, or was it just respect on both sides and just asking questions?
Well, so it was definitely, I mean, Graham, in the room, it was certainly on Graham's side pretty respectful. Zahi, you could tell, in my opinion, and so the famous part of that is, and a lot of this is, there's a couple of segments of this that are filmed. They're on YouTube. You can find them if you like. You search for like Graham Hancock, Zahi Was. There was a moment before the lectures had started. There was only a few people in the room when Graham's flipping through his slides, and I think a picture of Robert Bauval appeared in one of Graham's slides. The Orion correlation at the Great Pyramids, and I think it's not unknown that Zahi really doesn't like Robert Bauval. He's had an issue with him for many years. It wasn't always that way. In fact, you can go back and find I've got a picture of Robert Bauval, John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Zahi Was, like arm in arm in front of the Sphinx at one point. Those guys had worked together and were friendly at one point, but I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, so Zahi kind of flipped out, and this is all on YouTube if people want to see it. But Graham talked about it after the trip too quite a bit. But yeah, it was unfortunate. I honestly think that he didn't want to be there. He probably didn't want to debate. He probably had no intention of debating. He initially said he was just going to leave. He wasn't going to do anything, and then settled on the fact. Well, he said, I'm not going to watch your presentation, but I'll come in and give my presentation, then I'll take some questions. So that happened. Graham did a fantastic job. His presentation was as if was set up for a debate. He addressed a lot of these topics head on. Zahi gave his presentation, which wasn't quite the same thing. I think it was his stock standard kind of here's me with presidents of the United States and royalty, and this is these stories, and this is I'm Batman, and I caught the robbers that robbed something from the Egypt Museum, the Cairo Museum during the Arab Spring and the Revolution. So he told this story, and he just did his overall thing. And then there was a few questions afterwards, and some of those were quite telling too. I remember there's a good, and again this is on YouTube if people want to find it. He was asked about Göbekli Tepe. He wasn't aware of that site. Didn't see that it had any relevance whatsoever to the story of civilization in Egypt. Also, famously at that point, it's a sound clip that I use quite often. He sort of, hit the table and said, I don't believe in radar, like as if I've never found anything with ground penetrating radar. That doesn't work or whatever. But yeah, so there was it was a really dramatic kind of end to the 2 weeks. We were with Graham for 2 weeks, and then we had one day with Zahi. We went into the Sphinx early that morning. He gave his talk, I guess, in the Sphinx enclosure, and then we had a debate that evening. But the funny thing about that was that after all this went down, we were at the Mina House, this beautiful resort that's right at the foot, almost at the foot of the Great Pyramid. And in the middle of the night, everyone that had attended that debate had an excerpt that was written from a book that he was working on with Mark Lehner, the whole Pyramidiates sort of section of it, and I still have it here. It's in a little binder, but it's like a chapter from that book that he must have had printed. Said everybody needs to read this and have. So everyone at their room had this little pamphlet of a chapter from his book sort of shoved under the door, and it was kind of a weird way for it to end. But as far as I was concerned, I mean, it's sad. I talked to Graham. I was the only one interviewing him last year, and I think he did express a few regrets around how that worked out. And it's sad that there hasn't been real legitimate debate and cordial sort of civil debate in this space, because I think it's what we really need. It's all these things make the news when they blow up, but you can see the reaction to Hancock's work now with Ancient Apocalypse. I mean, it's just he's getting all this vitriol spewed at him, and there's a real lack of actual civil debate trying to address the specific topics that are in this field, that are in this alternative view on history. Yeah, it was a real interesting experience, and I do remember there was a few people there, and my mother's kind of in this crowd where you had this impression of Zahi, and he's a charming guy on TV. He's the world's most famous Egyptologist. He wears his hat, he's got his clothing on, and you have this impression of him from that footage and the stuff he's done on TV. But I know there was a few people that were shocked to see kind of the reaction that he gave and how he handled himself in that debate. So yeah, I think Graham came out really well on the back of that. But it was very much a formational thing for me to go, all right, there's definitely something here, and a lot of these topics need more exploration, more depth, and more research.
How exciting has it been to have, you know, this? Really, it seems like the first ever, again, alternative history documentary go mainstream. I mean, where it's a premiere Netflix show. Obviously, like you referenced, there's so much vitriol and media coming against Graham Hancock, and we see it on Twitter. But I mean, I've never had so many people that really aren't into this stuff messaging me, have you seen Ancient Apocalypse? What do you think? Like, to me, it shows there's a mass awakening, really in large part because of this show. How cool has that been for you as somebody who's also leading the charge in the alternative history world?
It's been great. I mean, it's a fantastic show. I applaud Graham for persevering and getting it done and making it happen. I think I kind of knew it was happening for a little while before it came out. It was a big, you know, he was keeping it on the down low for quite a while. I think like the last couple of years while he was filming it. As some people know, he's had some issues. Like he got banned from Egypt. The Serpent Mound people banned him from coming in with his alternative ideas and filming. But I think it's great. And as you said, like it is, and it's certainly something that I've seen. Even on the YouTube side, it does seem to be a lot more people becoming aware of some of the issues that really do surround the earliest parts and the history, like the origins of human civilization, and this idea that, you know, maybe we're not the only. This might not be the only time where we've risen to what you might call an advanced civilization. It seems quite likely, and the evidence is certainly pointing in the direction that it's happened before. Certainly, that's the space that I focus on. But it's fantastic that it's getting the eyeballs that it is. The whole vitriol side of it, and it became politicized. I think what happened. I mean, 3 years ago, Graham was attacked by several mainstream academics in the Society of American Archaeology journal. They dedicated 27 pages of their journal to attacking him, and I did a whole deconstruct of it on a live stream 3 years ago. And and even then I was calling it back like this is political. Like they're calling him a white supremacist and a racist, which is the most nonsense terms if you know the man. And he doesn't ever mention these sort of things in any of his work. But I consider it kind of like almost liberal dog whistling terms that are being thrown at him, trying to rally, you know, and he gets, it's ancient aliens. It's a collection of ad hominems and logical fallacies and association fallacies. And the funny thing is, you fast forward 3 years to now, and it's exactly the same arguments being made by exactly the same people, spewing the same kind of dog whistles at him. And what happened was, in my opinion, is that, you know, as soon as you see the previews for it, and you have guys like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson in the clip, which I think they were, then that triggers to what you might consider the left a little bit. And so you have some left-wing publications like The Guardian, and they'll go out looking for the opposition to it, and that amplifies that same argument. And they get, you know, guys like John Hoops and Jason Covalito, these same guys that were saying the same thing for years now. Their message gets amplified, but ultimately, I mean, whatever, it's the nature of the internet, right? It brings more eyeballs to the whole thing. And I think they've made themselves look a little silly by saying things like, well, this is the most dangerous show on Netflix. How has this been allowed? As if, you know,
Alright, bros, I think I'm done.
Somehow. Some of the articles that are written about this are utterly ridiculous.
Bros and girls, Jersey.
It's generated a lot of interest.
Jersey vibes. I'm done for today.
And, I think it will continue to do that. I think there's a lot of depth to a lot of these topics, and a lot of different.
There is a
thing Graham talks a lot about with the apocalypse.
Very small chance I'll play some GoldenEye right now, but unlikely.
Cataclysm happened on this planet.
By now, I mean like in an hour. Oh, probably not. Never mind.
You know, an extinction event that happened, and humans lived through it, and it would have been an absolute civilization ender.
Oh my God! I can see you
just
now.
A lot more to be done here, and I hope it stirs up a lot
baby,
more
I can see you. Oh, you want me to not look?
Legitimate research, and even, you know, over time, hopefully starts to change the what you might call the mainstream narrative. It's still this whole space is still somewhat controlled by academia. Like it's still the official narrative of history hasn't changed much in 100 years. In terms of civilization, is more or less in the hands of the academic establishment, the guys professors and the people that write the textbooks and that teach the courses in universities and whatnot. But there's a lot of different vectors that are coming at that now, and a lot of different people that have voices that are being recognised. And I think that's one of the issues that I think some of these people find quite threatening.
I love it.
The nature of the discourses has shifted.
I will meet you at 5:15, baby.
Authors,
I can't wait to see. I love your hair. Oh my god.
They can gain a platform and they can have a voice and they can start to convince people. And I think that's threatening, but I think I do have some hope on this front. I mean, I've been contacted by lots of students and people that are in, archaeology courses, the people that will be the academics of tomorrow. And I think they're being forced to deal with some of these questions and issues and topics that really show that, well, there's actually some vectors that should be affecting history. So I have hope that over time, this whole field might become a bit more open-minded on the academic side.
Follow this man.
We'll be able to embrace some of these new topics and really factor them into what our picture of history is.
Well said. So you just got back from Egypt. It sounds like you've been there several times. Was there an aha moment or something you saw this time that you never saw before?